Ike is a magician in the demon army. This dude got mad strength and skills, so they bumped him up to commander status. Right now, he is on a mission to attack Arsenum's Fort with his crew and take control of it. Ike is strategizing on how to handle his army, and damn, he manages to bring the fort walls down. Dude even surprised they went down quicker than he expected. His piggy assistant fills him in, saying it's because Ike hooked the orcs up with a battering ram, just like he told them to. Later on, we see humans and demons going at it inside the city walls, and the demons straight up dominating. Ike decides to pay a visit to the human army commander. Soon as the commander lays eyes on him, he recognizes Ike. Dude made a name for himself as the brigade commander of the Demon Lord Army's 7th Corps, the Undine Brigade. Ike lays out 3 options for the commander. Option 1, surrender and hand over his territories. Option 2, go out like a true warrior and off himself. Option 3, run away while Ike chills and enjoys the scenery outside. The human commander is hell surprised to see a demon showing mercy, but he ain't feeling any of the choices, so he straight up attacks Ike. But Ike ain't one to mess with and takes the commander down with just one spell. The piggy comes over to check if Ike's safe, and damn, he is relieved to see Ike all good. Ike tells the piggy to take care of the wounded commander and the soldiers who surrendered outside, and Piggy is hella surprised by this move. Meanwhile, there's this smoking hot lady keeping an eye on Ike through a magic crystal. She can't believe Ike managed to capture Arsenum with just 1 brigade in only a week, but she always knew Ike had potential. Ike then puts up a barrier spell to secure the room he's chilling in. He takes a look at the destruction caused by the battle and feels guilty about hurting so many peeps. Dude know he ain't never gonna get used to the blood and gore of war because he reveals he ain't no demon, he is a human. Ike explains how his teacher, Romberg, was this badass demon mage. Romberg knew everything about an advanced civilization that used to live in this world. Even though Ike was human, Romberg took him in and raised him, teaching him all his magic knowledge, and right before he kicked the bucket, Romberg warned Ike never to mention the advanced civilization because it would bring disaster. And he also instructed him to never remove his mask and robe because if the demon lord finds out who you really are, he ain't never gonna forgive you. And Ike said that he would take his advice seriously, like a little cute boy in his Halloween costume. Then Ike starts thinking that this room is all locked up with a baddest barrier and ain't nobody getting in without his permission. But damn, he's hella surprised when he spots a maid hiding right under the table he's sitting at. She's begging him not to kill her, all scared and shaking, saying she had seen nothing. And wouldn't you know it, this clumsy maid bangs her head on the table and passes out. I can't believe his secret identity, the one he's been keeping quiet for 20 freaking years, got revealed in such a cliche way. Then the scene cuts to him walking around Arsenum. His piggy's rolling with him and says that they took over the city, but Ike letting too many humans survive. He tells the piggy not to sweat it because the current demon lord ain't like the last one, and he only cares about the results. The piggy then says that the other leaders want to massacre the people and torch the whole town, but Ike tells him that if they kill them all, who the hell we will collect the taxes from? He explains that Arsenum is a damn trading city, and if there ain't nobody living there, the whole trade game gonna stop. Then out of nowhere, Ike sees a crowd of people waiting to talk to him, and the piggy tells them they don't have the authority to speak with his lord, but Ike ignores him and tells the humans to speak up. One of the humans all hesitant asks Ike how much they gotta cough up in taxes, but to his surprise, Ike tells him that the tax is gonna be the same as usual, and they all stoked about it. But then Ike warns them that if they resist the demon army, they will gonna get punished. But before he can hear their response though, he gets zapped to some dark-ass labyrinth. There he gets attacked by a monster he can barely see, and turns out that the hot woman from earlier summoned him there. He tells the hottie that she promised him that she wouldn't summon him out of thin air, and he unleashes one of his dope spells to take down the monster. The hottie tells him he's gotten stronger and introduces herself as Sapphiro, the 7th Corps commander of the Demon Lord's army. Ike explains that she's his boss, the only demon who knows his secret, and he tells her, instead of trying to kill him every damn time, she should hit him up with a message like a damn normal person. Sapphiro states that this would not be any fun, and Ike wonders if she summoned him here so he can make his report. She states that she has already found out everything with the help of her familiars, and he wonders why she has summoned him here in this case. She tells him that Demon Lord Darrow wants to see him in the flesh, and she's saying he might be the 1st Brigade commander to get such a dope honor. Ike wonders why the Demon Lord wants to see him, and she states that he must have impressed him by taking Arsenum in a single week. She mentions that she'll take him there. He puts his hand on her shoulder, and he does it. Sapphiro's disappointed because she thought maybe he'd try to feel up her breasts, but he is too damn chicken to do it, and she then teleports their asses. Meanwhile, that maid from earlier wakes up and tries to bounce from the room, but she sees she's trapped in a damn barrier. She finds some food in the room with a note she can't read, but she tries out the food anyway, and she finds it delicious, so she starts scarfing it down like she ain't ate for ages. Next thing we see, Ike and Saphiro are getting close to the Demon Lord's castle. The miasma around the castle is making Ike uneasy because he ain't a demon. They walk towards the castle gates, and Ike spots a magician at the entrance. He's thinking, hey, does this magician check everyone who steps foot in the castle? Saphiro confirms it, and that's worrying Ike because if they strip off his mask and robe, his true identity might get exposed. Saphiro tells him not to sweat it and uses her magic to surround Ike with a crazy amount of power. Seeing this, the magician thinks that he expected this much from Romberg's grandson, and Ike is shocked that the magician knows his grandpa, and the magician stated that everyone knew him as he was the master magician. Then Sapphiro's like, "Hurry your ass up, the demon lord's waiting." They step into the castle, and Ike explains that the demon lord's castle Domerberg is hella massive. It's built to flex the demon lord's mad power and magic skills. Ike's getting tired walking down the super long hallway, and he thinks that it ain't fair that Sapphiro can fly. He's always wanted flight magic, but his control ain't as tight as hers. The most he can do is jump crazy high, and then they arrive at the gate to the throne room. Sapphiro goes to chat with the demon lord while Ike waits. And while he's waiting, he's thinking that this demon lord is the one who turned the tide of the war against humanity and gave the demons a major advantage with just one battle. He figures the demon lord must be crazy strong and ripped, and the word on the street is that he's ice cold and ruthless. They say he's quick to kill anyone incompetent, whether they're friend or enemy. But if he sees potential in someone, he puts them to work, even if they ain't got the physical or magical power. He's all about meritocracy and has totally transformed the demon army. See, demons are born to be loners, always fighting among themselves. But this current demon lord Darrow changed all that. Sapphiro gives Ike the green light to enter the throne room, so he walks in and immediately bows his head to the demon lord. The demon lord tells him to lift his head, and Ike is shocked to see Barbie sitting on the throne. So he wonders if the demon lord's daughter left the daycare early, but turns out she's the infamous demon lord everyone's been buzzing about lately. She gives him props for taking down Arsenum in just a week, but he says he just did as he was told and that Sapphiro deserves all the credit. Darrow tells him he's as humble as a human, and Ike starts sweating a bit. Sapphiro tells the demon lord he's Romberg's grandson, the guardian of hell. The demon lord thinks that explains his humbleness and says he must be a deep thinker. That's probably why he didn't kill the leader or slaughter the residents of Arsenum, managing to bring down the city with minimal casualties. Ike then wonders if he should listen to the piggy and kill the humans as he suggested, but he knows he can't do that because he's human himself. He thinks that he can't mess this up, so he asks the demon lord for permission to speak. She gives him the green light, saying he can speak his mind. So Ike says that humans might fear terror, but they don't bow down to it. He argues that when you compare the productivity of towns where the demon leaders executed people to the ones where they didn't, it's clear which approach is better for their army. Darrow wonders if that's what Romberg thought too, and Ike confirms it. After chatting with the demon lord, Ike realizes she must also know about the ancient civilization and use that knowledge to revolutionize the demon army. Darrow tells him he's different from the other demons and takes off, saying she'd like to see the face behind his mask one day. Ike takes off his mask once the demon lord is out of sight, and damn, he was freaking nervous. He can't believe the demon lord caught onto his mask situation. Sapphiro tells him he better be grateful she didn't figure out he's a human. She mentions that the demon lord gave him a reward, but it feels more like a punishment. The scene switches to Ike returning to the room where he set up a barrier. He notices the maid knocked out after chewing down the food he left for her. He wakes her up and she starts apologizing and begging for mercy again. He tells her to chill because he ain't gonna off her, and he asks for her name. She introduces herself as 13 and he thinks her name's pretty weird. She explains that she's his slave and are always called by a number, but her mom named her Sadie. Ike realizes he can't just let her go now that she knows his human secret. She sticks to him like glue and promises to keep it forever. Ike believes her and declares she's gonna be his maid from now on, and she's thrilled to hear that. The scene cuts to Ike in Avalius, and we find out he's become the ruler of this city. He remembers that's the reward Sapphiro mentioned. She told him Avalius is farther south than Arsenum, and it's gonna be on the front lines of the war. It may be a small town, but it's vital for the demon army. His mission is to protect it and bring in double the tax money. I can't believe he has to double the taxes smack in the middle of a freaking war, and he thinks that if this is the front line, the humans can attack them at any time. He tells Piggy they gotta fix the walls first and asks how long it'll take. Piggy says it'll be 6 months, but Ike knows they don't have that kind of time. He wonders what the hell they should do and gets an idea. He tells Piggy they're gonna fix the walls in 1 month. Piggy thinks it's impossible, but Ike says they ain't only using human power. The next thing we see, both humans and demons are working together to repair the walls. Piggy's shocked to see the two races getting along and working in harmony. He thinks that Ike is really a damn genius, and he explains that he divided the work into 8-hour shifts so that they can work around the clock, and he also paid the workers to increase their morale. Ike uses his magic to help with the repairs, and Piggy thinks that his life gonna be set if he follows him. He reckons Ike might even become the next demon lord someday. The war between humans and demons keeps on raging, and right now the demons got the upper hand, which got Darrow feeling pretty damn good. But their intel shows that the humans are about to team up with the neighboring kingdom, and if they do, it could flip the whole damn war around. So Darrow decides to put their trust in Ike to lead a successful attack. Meanwhile, in the human kingdom, the badass knight known as White Rose Alistair gets summoned to help reclaim Avalius. They can't afford to lose another stronghold, so she's got to step up, and once she gets her mission, she bounces to handle it. At the same time, Ike and Sadie are on a mission of their own in the kingdom, but Sadie gets caught up in some shady game. This dude tells her all she gotta do is guess which cup the ball is under. If she's right, he'll double whatever cash she throws down. Sadie makes her choice, and the dude tells her to place her bet. But Sadie ain't got no money to bet with because Ike doesn't trust her with the finances. This con artist gets pissed that she wasted his time, but then he takes a second look at Sadie and says she can pay him off another way if she loses. Right then, all the cups start floating in the air, and it turns out the damn ball was never under any of them. Now all the other suckers who lost money to the dude get straight up furious and start threatening him to get their cash back. In the middle of the chaos, Ike pulls Sadie away and reminds her that she's supposed to stick by his side as his maid. Sadie apologizes, saying she was just curious. Then she notices Ike's rocking a new outfit, and Ike explains they're on a mission to spy on the enemy, so they can't be walking around in their demon disguise. They start strolling through town, and as they do, they spot a whole platoon of soldiers marching through the streets. That's all Ike needed to see to confirm that the kingdom is really making that alliance. They've made these alliances before, and each time it ended up kicking the demon lord's ass and pushing the army back to the castle. Sadie's worried the demon army might get defeated again because of this alliance, but Ike expects her to be rooting for the demons to fall since she's basically a damn prisoner right now. Sadie breaks it down for Ike, saying her old lady was a slave in human society. She knows that means she'll always be treated like a damn slave herself and end up like the broke-ass kids over there. But Ike reassures her, saying the demon army they have now is the strongest and smartest it's ever been. They ain't gonna let nobody take them down easily. As they keep strolling down the street, Ike hears someone shouting at them to halt. He turns around and sees it's the con artist trying to start some shit. Dude's mad because Ike messed up his damn scam, so he rolls up with this big dude thinking he can rob Ike to get even. Ike looks around and sees there ain't nobody nearby, so he decides it's time to teach this con artist a little lesson. In a flash, Ike casts a spell to freeze the big guy's legs and points a bunch of icicles at the con artist. The con artist demands that Ike unfreeze his boy so he can keep robbing him, but Ike ain't playing around. He stabs the dude in the shoulder to show he ain't afraid to hurt him if he don't cooperate. Finally, the dude realizes he's screwed and agrees to spill everything he wants to know. So Ike asks him what the deal is with all the soldiers in town because they all seem to be in a mad hurry. At first, the dude claims he don't know jack shit, but Ike threatens to straight up end him immediately. That's when the con artist starts spilling about the alliance and how the Rosaria army wants to rack up some war points for themselves before the alliance steps in. Ike is why they want to do that because more kills means more respect at the strategy meetings. But if they fail their mission, it's going to screw Rosaria over big time. Ike pieces together where they're planning to launch their attack, and the con man tells him that there's only one spot that could be aiming for, Avalius. Word is Avalius got a massive hole in its walls, so it's got to be an easy target. Ike's got a solid grip on the situation now. And since the con man spilled some useful info, he lets him be, but he doesn't mention nothing about unfreezing his ass. Once they make it back to Ike's office, he sits at his desk to finish up some paperwork, and Sadie brings him some tea to help him unwind. Just then, this demon chick bursts into the room and demands to know where the hell Ike's been for the past few hours because she's been damn worried. Ike keeps his cool and says he was busy scoping out the kingdom of Rosaria. But his reasonable answer don't satisfy her, so she starts going after Sadie, questioning why Ike's rolling with a human by his side. Sadie introduces herself as Ike's maid, but this girl straight up dismisses her and casually calls her an ugly slave. Then she has the nerve to offer to be Ike's maid instead. Sadie's had enough at this point, so she tells the girl to back the hell off because Ike's too tired to be dealing with hoes right now. And that sets off a long-ass argument between the two, accusing each other of trying to seduce Ike. Ike's smart enough to stay the hell out of that mess. Meanwhile, the Rosaria's army has gathered outside of Avalius and they're getting ready to attack. They notice there ain't many guards near the walls, which seems odd, but they figure it's because the humans are short on manpower to defend their turf. They let Alistair know they're all set for the attack and ready to unleash hell when she gives the order. So Alistair gives the order to fire, but as soon as she does, a bunch of skeleton soldiers pop up out of nowhere and surround Alistair's forces. The humans think they can handle some damn skeletons because they got siege gear and all. But out of the blue, one of the soldiers gets blasted by a shot and everything goes to shit for the humans. Alistair sees they ain't got no chance of winning this battle no more, so she calls for an immediate retreat. Ike and the Piggy Gyron were watching the whole thing from the top of the wall, and they give props to Alistair for making the smart move to retreat. But let's be real, the only reason they had a shot was because of Ike's recon mission earlier. But while they're busy watching, an assassin sneaks up behind Ike and shoots an arrow straight into his back. Dude falls to the ground and passes the hell out. Meanwhile, the general just got word that Alistair had to retreat because of some unexpected shit. The soldier tries to explain that the demon army set up an ambush in advance, but the general ain't having it. He orders Alistair to get locked up for losing. The soldier realizes that's a dumbass move, so he tries to explain that Alistair is one of the baddest commanders in the kingdom. He's saying that throwing her ass in jail for one loss is gonna mess up the soldiers' morale and screw up their future battles. But the general don't give a damn and insists on punishing Alistair for failing the mission he sent her on. Back at Avalius, Ike wakes up in bed after healing up from his wound, but he finds Sapphiro sleeping next to him, so he's got a bunch of questions to ask. First off, he wants to know why the hell she's in bed with him, but she dodges the question and says she saved his life. but something about the way she says it sounds real sketchy. Eventually, Ike gets her to drop the act and tell him what the hell happened because he don't remember shit. So she spills that she healed him after he got shot in the back with that damn arrow. It was a nasty injury, but thanks to her healing, there ain't even gonna be a scar left by now. Moving on, Sapphira mentions that the reports say not a single human got killed in the attack. She knows Ike ain't into killing folks when it ain't necessary, but if he keeps acting this way, he's gonna raise the suspicion of the Demon Lord again. Ike gets where Sapphira is coming from, but he's trying to find a way for humans and demons to live peacefully without all this pointless killing, so needless killing would only be opposite of his plans. Sapphira respects Ike's dedication to bringing peace between the races, so she drops the subject for now and tells him to stay put and get some rest because he's still just a human after all. Once she's gone, Ike takes a good look at the arrow that was used to shoot him. Based on what he's been told, he got shot from behind, which means either someone had to sneak into the castle to get to him or it was a betrayal from someone close to him. Right then, Ike hears a knock at the door, so he throws on his skeleton mask just as Sadie and Lilith walk in to check up on him. They were both worried about Ike, but they're still arguing over who gets to seduce him. Lilith tells Sadie to back off and then snuggles up against Ike's arm. But Sadie ain't having it, she wants to get close to Ike too. So they start another fight, but luckily, Jaron steps in and saves the day. He grabs Lilith and tosses her out of the room and locking the damn door. Lilith starts banging on the door, begging to be let back in, but Jira knows she's seriously getting on Ike's nerves, so he keeps her ass out. Ike thanks him for the help and asks for a favor because he wants to know where the hell Alistair is right now. Jiren promises to look into it, and after a few hours of digging, he tells Ike that Alistair's locked up because she failed to reclaim Evalia's. This was supposed to be a simple undercover mission to meet up with Alistair, but damn Lilith had to follow him here. She starts warning Ike that humans can get real violent sometimes, so it ain't safe for him to come in person. But Ike thinks he'll be fine because he's got something important to ask Alistair face to face, and he doesn't even remember asking Lilith to come along. Lilith says it'll be more interesting with the two of them together, and once they're done with the mission, they can have all the fun they want. Plus, Sadie got to roll with him on the last mission, so it's only fair that she gets to join him this time. I don't want to argue, so he lets Lilith tag along, but he tells her she better keep up with him. They finally make it to the front gate of the prison, and it doesn't look like it's heavily guarded or nothing, so Lilith thinks she could probably break in all by herself. But Ike stops her and says he don't want to cause a ruckus. Instead, he wants them to get in and out quickly and peacefully. But damn Lilith already knocked out the guards while Ike was still talking. They step inside, and this place is way bigger than Ike expected, so it might take a while to find Alistair's cell, but Lilith's got a better idea. She straight up beats the crap out of the prison warden until he gives up his keys and tells her where Alistair is being held. Alistair is apparently on the top floor, but just as Ike and Lilith are about to head up, a whole bunch of guards show up because they heard all the screaming from the warden earlier. Lilith tells Ike to go on ahead without her while she deals with the guards. But before he bounces, he reminds her that he don't want no unnecessary bloodshed. Lilith promises not to kill anyone, but as Ike's leaving, he hears the guards screaming in pain with bones cracking left and right. He brushes it off for now and starts climbing the stairs till he gets to what's supposed to be Alistair's cell, but he is shocked to find it completely empty. Right then, some girl sneaks up from behind and tries to stab Ike in the back, but he dodges her and pins her down. And that girl soon turns out to be Alistair herself, so he lets her go and tells her he's got a question. He wants to know if she sent an assassin to kill him during the last battle, because if it wasn't her, then that means he's got a traitor on his hands. Instead of answering right away, Alistair gets closer to Ike and asks if he's really a demon because you don't seem like one to her. Ike tries to play dumb, but the guards start making their way up the stairs, distracting him. So Alistair takes the chance to put her knife to his throat and ask him once again if he's actually a human. She wants to know if Ike is actually human or what. The guards start closing in, but she ain't budging till she gets her answer. Since she doesn't want him moving, Ike says he won't budge, but that don't stop him from throwing down a spell. So before Alistair even knows what's going down, Ike starts spitting some weird Indian chant and everybody's frozen in their tracks. Then Ike struts up to the guards and blows them away with a sick wooden spell. But out of nowhere, another guard sneaks up behind Ike, swinging his mace trying to take him out. Ike pulls a slick dodge move, and when he's in the clear, he grabs that guard with some magic and sticks him to the bridge grate, sending him straight to his demise. But right before he hits the ground, Ike busts out another spell to break his fall. Alistair can't wrap her head around why Ike would go through all that trouble to save a human. But damn, the bridge is way more messed up than Ike thought, and Alistair is still stuck there, unable to move. So eventually that grate beneath her gives way, and she's falling to her doom. But just like before, Ike swoops in and saves her ass before she hits the ground. Alistair is even more baffled now because it ain't making any damn sense for a demon to be saving her life. But Ike brushes her off and finally introduces himself properly. He straight up claims he's the commander of the 7th Army of the Demon Lord, and Alistair puts 2 and 2 together. Ike must be that general who held it down against her troops in Evalia's. Ike uses his demon commander status as proof that he ain't no human. Like, no way the demon army would be dumb enough to let a human climb the ranks like that. Alistair starts thinking Ike's a demon for real, so Ike asks her again if she sent an assassin. But she's stubborn as hell and won't give him a damn thing. She's a proud knight loyal to her kingdom, and she'd rather die than spill any info that could help the enemy. Ike realizes she ain't budging with the answers he wants, so he steps up real close to Alistair and starts digging into her mind with some mind-reading magic. Just as he's doing his thing, Lilith pops him mad as hell because Ike's flirting with some human chick when she's right there. She tries to get Ike to hug her instead, but he already got all the deets he needed from Alistair's head, so he says he will be leaving now. As Ike and Lilith bounce, Alistair shouts out and asks why Ike went through all that trouble breaking into the prison if he was just gonna peace out peacefully. Ike straight up tells her he ain't got no reason to stick around no more because he knows Alistair had nothing to do with the assassination. And while he was digging into her mind, he caught a glimpse of a couple of her thoughts. So Ike tells Alistair she shouldn't beat herself up over losing the battle for Ivalius. It's all good for a commander like her to learn from her mistakes and keep moving forward. After that, he tells Lilith to get ready to bounce, but she suggests they find a private spot and have a little fun first. But Ike shuts her down quick and opens a portal to teleport them back to the castle. And once they vanish, Alistair's left with a whole lot of questions about what the hell just went down. Back at the house, Ike gets greeted by Sadie as he rolls in. He tells her he's got a present for her. Sadie's curious and goes over to him, and Ike pours a bag of rice into her hand. Sadie's never seen rice before, so she ain't got a clue what it is. Ike tells her he found it in the capital city of Lazas, and that it'll boost the productivity of Ivalius. He got ordered to find a way to double the tax revenue for the town. So while Ivalius already pumps out a bunch of wheat, if they switch to growing rice, he can crank up the productivity of the whole damn place. Sadie doesn't know what the hell productivity means, so Ike takes it upon himself to break it down. He tells her it means they can grow a whole lot of rice compared to wheat, and that means they won't need as many farmers to work on the fields, and those folks can do other stuff with their time. So overall, the productivity of Avalia is going to keep rising and eventually make them rich. Ike asks if Sadie gets what he just said, but her brain's still trying to process the whole productivity thing, so Ike's economics lesson was a total waste. He simplifies it and says it means people gonna have plenty of food to eat, and he gonna be stacking up that tax money in the process. Sadie finally gets what Ike's saying, so to get things rolling, he wants her to whip up something with the rice. Sadie ain't never cooked rice before, so she asks Ike what she's meant to do with it. But damn, even Ike doesn't know because he ain't never seen rice either. Sadie's shocked that there's stuff even Ike doesn't know, but she is still clueless about what to do with the rice. All Ike knows is that you gotta go from low to high and never take off the lid even if the baby's crying. So he leaves it up to Sadie to figure out the rest while he handles some important business in town. A few minutes later, Ike hollers for Jiron to gather all the soldiers and his crew in the courtyard. Once that's done, he starts thinking about what he's figured out so far. The arrow used in the assassination attempt came from Alistair's army, but he read her mind and she ain't know nothing about no assassination attempt. That means somebody tried to assassinate him and make it look like Alistair was behind it. While he ain't liking the idea of suspecting his soldiers, he gotta face the fact that there's probably a spy among them. He busts out his mind-reading magic and scans the brains of everyone gathered. After going through everyone's mind, he finds a goblin who's freaking out and praying he don't get caught. As soon as Ike's suspicions confirmed, he teleports right in front of the goblin and straight up accuses him of being a spy. Later on, Ike heads over to Saphiro's castle to get some advice, but he teleports in while Saphiro's taking a bath. She don't seem to mind being naked in front of Ike all that much, but Ike ain't cool with it, so he says he'll wait outside. Before he dips, though, Saphiro asks him if he got a traitor in his army. That catches Ike's attention because he ain't told nobody about the spy goblin yet, so he asks how she found out. Saphiro says she just made a guess, so Ike spills that the traitor behind it all is Jace, the one-eyed goblin. Saphiro ain't surprised to hear that because she has been suspicious of Jace for a minute, so Ike asks her what he should do now. She gets out of her bath and says they're gonna make Jace pay for betraying them. Meanwhile, back in Ivalius, Jace gets word from his crew that Ike paid a visit to Saphiro recently. He can't wrap his head around how Ike bounced back so fast after they shot him in the back. But things go from bad to worse when one of his homies tells him they lost contact with their spy and Ike's crew. Jace knows this ain't good news. It probably means Ike's onto his little scheme. So he decides he's gonna gather his troops and go after Ike before he gets taken out. But damn, he gets hit with a horror show when he finds out Ike's out in the streets looking for him. Jace steps up and meets Ike, acting all nice, saying Ike should have given him a heads up if he was gonna roll through out of the blue. Ike says he just happened to be in the neighborhood and wanted to pay Jace a visit solo, but Jace shows up with his whole crew, so Ike asks if he planning to start a freaking war or something. Jace tells Ike this is his turf, so he got no business being here in the first place. He also points out how Ike got tagged with an arrow not too long ago, making it seem like Ike losing his edge as a commander. Ike agrees, saying he was careless back then, but he never saw the betrayal coming from someone on his own squad. No way he could have predicted that. Since Ike knows Jace the traitor, Jace drops the nice act and tells Ike he was careless coming here alone because now Jace and his whole army gonna tear him apart. Ike's actually glad to hear that Jace brought his whole army because now he can just blow them all up at once. Jace looks up in the sky and sees a bunch of massive meteors raining down. That's Sapphira doing her thing with a wickedly destructive spell. She loves unleashing that power so much that she forgot to give Ike a heads up to get the hell out to the blasted zone. But she's pretty sure he'll be fine. Down on the ground, Ike ain't fine at all. He gotta hide behind a building to avoid getting blown to bits. He asked Sapphira to tone down her attack so they could rebuild this part of the city later, but she clearly ignored him because this is way too damn intense. Once the initial explosion shows over, Sapphira starts phase 2 of the plan. She orders her skeleton soldiers to start taking out all the goblins who manage to survive, and the slaughter fest begins. As Jace watches his crew bite the dust, Ike teleports right behind him and gives him a damn choice. He can either surrender right now or wait until everyone's 6 feet under. And even after witnessing Ike's bagassery, Jace stupidly orders his crew to off Ike. Ike busts out a wind spell and blows away the 2 fools coming at him from the front. But while he's doing that, some goblin tries to stab him in the back. Little did that goblin know, Ike had a shield ready to protect his ass. He straight up annihilates the rest of the goblins with his magic. Meanwhile, Jace's punk ass is making a run for it because he never gave a damn about his soldiers in the first place. But before he can make a clean getaway, Sapphira's monster blocks his path. So he gotta use his smoke bomb to distract it and sneak away into some damn alley. Dude slinks into a portal and ends up in the damn forest, thinking he outsmarted Ike and Sapphira. But just as he's about to head down his secret pathway, Ike shoots a damn fireball at him. Jace asks how the hell Ike found him when only he knows about that secret path. Ike explains that he has been tracking Jace with one of his familiars the whole damn time. Then he tells Jace to surrender right away because there ain't no way Jace gonna win or escape. Instead of surrendering, Jace decides to attack Ike, but his punches ain't shit against Ike's shield spell. So Ike blows his sorry ass back. Jace gets all tied up with magic vines and hung up like a damn fool. And that's when Jace finally admits defeat. You can see why the Demon Lord holds Ike in such high regard, and Jace himself thinks Ike has mad skills. So they got a proposition for him. He wants Ike to team up with him and take over the Demon Lord's army, bringing things back to the good old days. Jace complains about how the Demon Lord doesn't let demons kill humans without a damn good reason, even though demons naturally enjoy subjugating and killing humans. There's a bunch of demons who ain't feeling her way of doing things, so Jace invites Ike to help overthrow her because she ain't fit to be the Demon Lord. Ike straight up ain't having it, so Jace breaks free one of his hands and hurls a knife at Ike. But Ike effortlessly dodges that shit, and he feels insulted that Jace really thought that weak move would work on him. Ike starts grilling Jace about who else plotting to overthrow the Demon Lord, but he refuses to reveal any damn information. Sapphira shows up real quick, ready to torture Jace as much as needed to squeeze out the info, but Ike pleads with her to let him handle it peacefully because he ain't trying to cause excessive harm. Sapphira whining about how Ike's methods are taking too damn long, so she's about to get real brutal. Right then, Jace starts turning purple and screaming in pain even though Sapphira ain't even done jack shit yet. That can only mean the other demons in his crew poison him to keep him quiet. Ike tries using an antidote spell, but that poison is too damn potent, so Jace gonna kick the bucket sooner or later. Before he bites the dust, Sapphira asks Jace if he still want to protect the snakes who poisoned him without a second thought. Jace agrees to spill the beans about the rebellion leaders so Sapphira can get her revenge. Once they got all that damn info, Sapphira and Ike roll up to Darrow to let her know there's a rebellion going on, led by some punk-ass 3rd Division commander named Bastio. And since they accusing Bastio of straight-up treason, Darrow want to hear his side of the story. Bastio is claiming that both Sapphira and Ike are trying to front on him, and that's why they killed Jace to keep him quiet. He also says Sapphira plotting to snatch the 3rd corpse from him, but all the accusations are straight-up whack and only get Sapphira heated. Darrow is telling Sapphira to chill because she gut-handled the situation. Then she's dropping knowledge on everyone, saying the more power a demon got, the more they are craving it. Ambition is what defines demons, so she can't in good conscience punish a demon for hustling for power. But even with all that said, she ain't dumb. She's knowing damn well Bastio is full of laying shit, so she ain't falling for his accusations. And she also knows Sapphira is still loyal to her, but it's still Sapphira's fault that Jace betrayed her because she was supposed to keep her crew loyal. Sapphira was taking responsibility for that, so according to the demon's law, Darrow was supposed to take them both out. But she ain't gonna do that because it'd be a damn shame to lose 2 core commanders at once. Instead, she is deciding they're gonna settle this with a straight-up duel, and whoever comes out on top gets to keep breathing. Later on, Sapphira is getting ready for the duel, and the Demon Lord just sends her the deets. So she is telling Ike they're gonna be throwing down with puppets, because the rules say she can't fight in person, and Bastio can't either. Both of them gonna take charge of 50 puppets, and the side that wipes out all the enemy's puppets first wins. That seems like a whole lot of unnecessary complexity for a damn duel, because Darrow could just have them fight to death. But Sapphira thinks the Demon Lord want to test their skills as commanders. Still, it don't make it any less weird. Oh, there's one more thing Sapphira forgot to mention. Darrow made a rule that commanders can appoint someone to fight for them. So she's picking Ike to throw down in the duel, putting her life on the line. Ike is asking if she is sure she doesn't want to handle this duel herself, but she is saying she is much more likely to come out on top this way because the duel is all about skill between commanders and she believes Ike is way better at it than her. Even though she was still way stronger than him, for now she's putting her life in his hands. Ike doesn't like being forced to fight for Sapphiro's survival, but he ain't got no choice but to bring his A game. Ike gets taken to peep at the puppets he gonna command, and from what he has been told, all the puppets packing the same strength, and they follow their commander's orders to the word. So the only thing that gonna decide this duel is the leadership skills of the commanders. They also got the green light to gear up the puppets with weapons as they see fit, but Ike ain't thinking the sword's gonna cut it to secure his win. Later on, he back in his house, racking his brain trying to come up with some sick formations for the puppets. That's when Seti rolls in and hands him a cup of tea. Since she's around, Ike asks her what she'd do if she had to throw down and win a fight, but Seti is clueless because she ain't about that fight life to begin with. Ike agrees that squashing beef without throwing fists be the way to go, but sometimes your opponent won't be satisfied unless there's a full-blown brawl. So hypothetically, he want to know what she'd do in that kind of situation. Seti ain't got much fighting under her belt, but if she gotta choose, she will pick a damn broom as her weapon of choice. Ike saying she is spot on because the best weapon is one that keeps you out of reach of your opponent while giving you the reach to strike them. And yeah, a sword is better than a dagger, but a bow is even more lethal because you can hit them from a distance. But of course, Bastio knows all that too, so he's probably gonna try the same tactics. Seti mentions how her old master used to rave about crossbows being badass in battles, and Ike thinks that might be a dope idea because the crossbows can pierce metal armor and are easier to handle than bows. But it ain't gonna cut it for him because he needs something even more hardcore than crossbows. Dude want to go full-on Mad Max on them, but he ain't got the gear for that, so be settling for the next best thing, guns. Seti never heard of guns before, so she asks if they are powerful, and Ike assures her guns are crazy strong. These boomsticks let you unleash hell from hundreds of meters away without your opponent being able to do shit in return. Seti thinks that sounds hella dope, but she asking if Ike has the skills to whip up something like that. He may not be able to pull it off solo, but he already has a plan in mind. He's saying Sapphiroh is a badass alchemist, so he's sure she's gonna whip up the guns in no time. But when he goes to ask her, Sapphiroh straight up shuts him down. She's good at making stuff, but she can't create something she ain't never seen before. Ike tries explaining it's just an iron tube with gunpowder to launch a bullet, but Sapphiroh ignores him and starts to ask him to join her for a hot swim. Meanwhile, words just dropped to Bastio that Ike taking Sapphiroh's spot as commander. And while his lackey thinks Sapphiroh must be scared of Bastio or some shit, Bastio knows Sapphiroh got some kind of plan up her sleeve even if he ain't know what it is. But for now, he letting his lackey know he is damn impressed with the sword that got made. The lackey tells him it is crafted with a dragon's tooth, and they can make enough of them to equip all their soldiers. But Bastio saying he gonna need a whole lot more than just 50 swords for what he has planned. Meanwhile, Ike just stepping out of the pool with Sapphiroh, and he can't believe how chill she is when his screw-up could cost her life. Just then, someone tossing Ike's coat his way, so he's showing gratitude, but then he is about to have a heart attack because the person turning out to be Darrow. This is real bad for Ike because he ain't wearing his mask, but he thinks he can bluff his way out of this mess because maybe Darrow doesn't recognize him. She drops a bag on the ground and tells Ike to open it, so Ike doing just that and losing his mind when he sees a bunch of damn red dead guns. She knew Ike was trying to get his hands on them, so she went through a lot of trouble to get it for him. Ike tries denying it because he doesn't want her to know who he really is, but Darrow tells him ain't no point lying about it because she already knows he is human. Romberg spills everything about Ike to her, so she has been knowing from the start that Ike is human. But if she knew all along, then Ike asks why she ain't killed him right away. She says she let him live for the sake of her wish, since no matter how much power she's got, she won't be able to achieve her goal without having people by her side to fight for her. Ike's all curious and asks her what her wish is, so the Demon Lord says she wants to create a peaceful world, and for that, she needs mad skilled peeps on her squad. That's why she wants Ike to help her out. Ike says he's happy to serve her and Darrow is pleased, so she leaves by teleport. Ike brings the guns to Sapphiroh so she can eyeball them and finally understand what the hell guns are. She's all clueless and asks Ike how the hell she's supposed to make bullets. Ike tells her it's just a metal ball, so Sapphiroh conjures one up, but damn, that thing's way too damn big to be a bullet. Ike schools her and says it needs to be small enough to fit inside the gun barrel. So Sapphiroh catches on, although she ain't thrilled because making small stuff gives her wicked acne. Out of nowhere, there's a massive freaking explosion, but Sapphiroh ain't sense no magic. Ike breaks it down and says it's probably because of the gunpowder they were messing with. Fiorentina steps up and tells Ike she whipped up the powder he asked for. So Ike asks Sapphiroh if she's done with the bullets, and this time they're on point. Now he wants her to crank out about 500 more of them. Sapphiroh agrees to get him the bullets, but dumps all the work on Fiorentina because she ain't feeling it. Ike apologizes to Fiorentina because he needs her to make the gunpowder and bullets because Sapphiroh ain't willing to help, but she says she's already used to it because Sapphiroh never does her job. On the day of the duel, the stadium's packed with demons, all hyped and ready for some action. Bastio starts clowning on Ike, saying he only got shields for his puppets, while his own puppets are rocking full-on armor. He asks Ike what Sapphire is doing right now and whether she's plotting something, but in any case, it doesn't matter to him since he will be winning no matter what. His puppets are covered head to toe in that tough Damascus steel, so no sword or arrow gonna break through. Darrow hooked him up with that gift, so he thinks she must be taking his side in this duel. Ike knows exactly what Darrow was thinking when she hooked them up with this sick gear. Maybe she wanted a fair fight or some kind of test. But no matter what her deal is, he can always ask her up once he's taken the win. The match kicks off and they lay down the rules again. Each commander's got 50 puppets, and whoever wipes out the enemy's puppets first takes the crown, while the loser meets his creator. Once that's settled, they give the green light for the duel to begin, and Bastio wastes no time telling his archer puppets to light up Ike's squad. Ike commands his puppets to block with their shields, and while they manage to deflect some arrows, a few of Ike's puppets still catch shots. After that, Bastio orders his crew to charge in and wreak havoc on Ike's troops. Bastio is laughing the all time because Ike's just playing defense. Time ticks by and a bunch of Ike's puppets bite the dust. But Darrow knows it ain't over yet. Then suddenly there's a massive boom reverberating through the arena as Ike's remaining puppets open fire with their guns. Now that Ike's counterattack is in full swing, it doesn't take long for his puppets to effortlessly mow down Bastio's crew. Bastio's clueless, wondering what the hell's going down and why he's losing. Before you know it, all of Bastio's puppets drop to the ground lifeless and Bastio officially loses the battle. So the Demon Lord steps down from her throne to deliver the rough news to him. She's feeling generous and gives him 2 options because she's so damn nice. She tells Bastio he can either off himself or she'll do it for him, and trust me, it won't be painless. But Bastio's got something else up his sleeve in case he ended up on the losing side. In the blink of an eye, Bastio has one of his archers shoot an arrow right at Darrow's back. But unlike Ike, she sees it coming and catches the arrow before it lands. What she wasn't expecting was the bomb strapped to the arrow. It blows up, taking her down. Bastio ain't done yet. He triggers another round of explosions in the stands, taking out a bunch of spectators and letting his undead soldiers storm the arena. And now he's claiming he'll be the new Demon Lord from this point on. Many years back, Romberg went beast mode in a dark cave, wiping out a wolf pack and stumbling upon a family ripped apart by those savages. In the midst of all the chaos, there was a little kid still clinging to life, shielded by parents who put their bodies on the line to save their child from the Grim Reaper. Fast forward to today, the 3rd Battalion was all in on Bastio's hustle, trying to snatch control of the whole demonic crew. Catching the orcs by surprise, the commander skeletons and goblins straight up obliterated anyone in their way, while Bastio was flexing, swearing up and down that once he had the demons on lockdown, the whole world would bow to him. Seizing his moment of glory, Bastio slides up to Ike, talking about it ain't too late to ride with him, guaranteeing victory. He even throws in that Ike could still run the 7th Battalion. Peeping the scene, Ike peeps the orcs in the ring getting caught slipping and taken out by the skeleton squad. He hits back that the offer sounds good, but he ain't about to chat it up with Bastio. As the power emanates from his staff, Ike says that Bastio will never be the Demon Lord. Hearing this, Bastio chuckles, thinking Ike was smarter than that. As he talks, his crew closes in on Ike, and Bastio announces that this is Ike's end. With that, some warriors rush at Ike, who claps back with a spell that sends them flying. Unfazed, Bastio keeps the pressure on, pushing Ike to step it up with an even harder spell, taking out the soldiers coming at him. One skeleton tries to throw his skull out like a mana bomb near Ike, but it barely phases him. Just as it's about to swing with a sword through the smoke, the skeleton gets shielded and zapped by another spell. Even though Ike's running the show in the battle, the 3rd Battalion stands strong under their leader's orders, not backing down in the face of Ike's strength. As Ike takes off, the archers take shots, but he dodges them and keeps climbing to a high spot to peep the scene from above. From up there, he drops a spell that cuts through all the enemy soldiers, leaving Bastio in shock. Before long, Bastio's next in line to feel Romberg's apprentice's wrath. Flying toward him, Ike lets loose a spell that sets off a massive explosion. When the smoke cleared, Ike scoped out the chaos and wreckage around him, expecting Bastio to be in the mix. But with Bastio's head rolling on the ground, Dude let out another laugh and said ain't over yet. Next thing you know, Bastio's body pops up behind Ike to attack, while the whole place is getting wrecked by explosions that are tearing the arena apart. Ike barely dodges the attack as the whole scene transforms into a sandstorm. Bastio makes it clear that a move like that ain't gonna take him out. Being the head of the Immortal Brigade, Ike needs to remember that Bastio is a Dullahan and he and his crew are undead. When Ike sees the enemies rising up again after getting dropped, he knows their intensity ain't fading. As Bastio's crew comes back swinging with more fire, this time the skeletons start chucking a bunch of explosive skulls at Ike, catching him off guard. On top of that, a zombie goblin is creeping up on Ike, making him act quick. He freezes the enemy's arm and shatters it to bits. Then he freezes time and takes out the nearest enemies, but they keep coming. According to Bastio, his troops are endless, and no matter how strong a sorcerer Ike is, all magic's gonna run dry at some point. So it's just a matter of time before Bastio claims the win, which sucks because Bastia would have digged having a player like Ike on his team. And just when things couldn't get worse, the orc archer who took a shot at Darrow takes another shot. With his crazy aim, he hits Ike with an explosive arrow, causing a massive explosion. By some miracle or quick reflexes, Ike manages to shield himself in time and throws up a magical barrier, but the hit shows that his life was on the line. Out of breath, Ike starts to show signs of being worn down. Bastia points out that the enemy's still kicking, proving why he's leading the Immortal Brigade. Still, Bastia keeps hammering home that resistance is futile. On the flip side, Ike's starting to think this might be true, so he's got to figure out a way to flip the script before things go south. Checking out his surroundings, I clocked that the undead were basically walking corpses, and his dark magic wasn't cutting it against them. But the fact they weren't alive sparked an idea in Ike's mind. Meanwhile, Bastia thought the enemy's chill vibe meant they were surrendering, but he seized the moment to order another attack from his troops, which they launched pronto. Ike hit back with a dazzling spell that wiped out the attackers, the light spreading across the battlefield and doing the same to the remaining foes. Bastia, caught off guard by this move, was left speechless. His archer lackey was gearing up for another shot, but got his arm chopped off, stopping him in his momentum. It was Sapphiro, settling the score with the orc by blowing him sky high. Not only that, she brought in more troops to take on the 3rd Battalion, including demons under her command who were tearing it up, wrecking the opponents and umming the battlefield. Likewise, Juron led the Goblin battalions, while Lilith used her unique and hot techniques to take down their enemies. And after charming her way through the monsters, she announced she was coming for Ike next. In the meantime, Sapphiro reached Ike first, letting him know the situation was in hand. Practically defeated, Bastia curses the name of Sapphiro, but Darrow, who was watching from the shadows, reminded him that his real rival was Ike. As she approached him, she gave him a shot at redemption by offering a one-on-one showdown with Ike. If he won, Bastia would keep breathing. Bastia grabbed that chance, swearing to tear Ike apart. Without any frills, the two clashed, kicking up a storm of dust. Bastia kept swinging his sword, while Ike held his ground with his magical shield, but Bastia's strength cracked part of the barrier, pushing him to attack even harder, claiming Ike's fate was sealed right there. He threw in some trash talk, saying Ike should blame the Demon Lord, who rewarded him with death after winning the war. To finish the fight, Bastia unleashed dark magic at Ike, who fought back with another bright spell that wiped out the undead troops. This time, the light swallowed up Bastia's dark beam, even taking his hand with it. Peeping the brawl closely, Sapphiro's mind is blown because she didn't know when I picked up white magic. Weirdly, she peeps that the Demon Lord ain't even fazed by this. Bastia, all big-headed, charges at his rival once more, who's now rocking white magic, the secret sauce for winning. Back in the day, young Ike was staring sadly at a wilted flower. His mentor Romber then hits him up to join the magic lessons for the day. Showing mad talent from the jump, Ike stays training at these lessons, part of his daily routine with the Guardian of Hell. Later on, Ike asks if there's a spell to bring a dried-up flower back to life. The old teacher breaks it down that white magic's the key to that move. Without skipping a beat, Ike asks to learn this magic. But Romber drops the truth that Ike's a demon now, so he should be about curses, not that white magic life. See, using that would raise some eyebrows because white magic's all about love and caring for others, straight from the heart. And that vibe wouldn't sit right with the demons if they caught Ike slaying that kind of mojo. But if Ike's dead set on learning, knowing he gotta keep it on the down low, Romberg spills that white magic's scarier than any blade for demon folk. Faced with that, Ike ain't backing down. Now a full-on mage, Ike throws shade at Bastio, saying aiming to be a demon lord is too much for a small fry like him. Bastio ain't caring about throwing his troops under the bus, even if they're undead, ready to backstab his crew and his lady for his own power trip. Ike knows that's the demon way, but that's exactly why he won't let Bastio slide for his crimes, because a boss can't be treating their people foul. Bastio flips out at this talk, acting like he needs forgiveness from someone he sees as a nobody. Fueled by hate, he strikes again, and Ike apologizes to his grandpa for having to bust out the white magic. With his left claws shining bright, Ike goes straight through Bastio's gut, the light spreading and swallowing up Bastio until he vanishes. As soon as the fight is over, Sapphiro questions if Ike picked up that move from Romberg, and he says yes. Impatiently, Ike points out that she knew all along, it still left him to hold it down on the front lines. Sapphiro laughs it off, saying that despite that, Ike still came out on top, but now Darrow's in a bind because there ain't no one to lead the 3rd Battalion. So she passes the baton to Ike, letting him know of her call as she dips out. Lilith and Fiorentina show up to hype up the leader's win and survival, even though Lilith's burning up with envy over Jyrun showing Ike love. Later on, Sapphiro steps to Darrow for yanking her second-in-command from her squad. As Ike's boss, she figured she'd be the one calling the shots for the crew. Darrow's thrown off by Sapphiro's negative reaction, thinking she'd be cool with the move. But following Sapphiro's logic, Darrow's the top dog over both, so she's got the final word on any call. But the Darrow brings Ike in to lay down his thoughts and make his own call. After the sit-down with Darrow, Sapphiro schools Ike for spilling that he's human to the Lord, but gets even more heated seeing the dude ain't even sweating about it. Just a bit ago, Ike had mentioned to the Lord that people are starting to get used to the new Ivalias. At first, demons and humans didn't know how to kick it together, but that's been changing slowly to the point where all races are living in sync, hustling together for the greater good and progress of the hood, something that was unheard of before. Even the youngest people in Ivalias ain't scared of what they used to call monsters, and what's popping off in this city is definitely something special. From day one of serving under Sapphiro, Ike laid it out that his main mission is crafting a world where humans and demons can live together peacefully. With that said, he ditches the mask, apologizes for his move, but vows he's still got a lot to learn from Sapphiro. In turn, he pledges to make Ivalias the first spot where both races can live in peace. After Ike and Sapphiro dip, Dara reflects by her window on all she's just heard. The scene shifts to Ike standing at High Point looking over Ivalias. Sadie walks up and asks what he's doing there. Ike explains that he's been doing some research and found out they can use the Norfolk system with the soil and climate as they are. Sadie, a bit puzzled, asks what that means. Ike explains it's a method to grow lots of crops without letting the fields rest. She still doesn't get it, so he tells her she can eat all the turnips she wants. Sadie likes the sound of that, and Ike tells her that soon they're going to be busy creating a town where humans and demons can live together happily. Next, we see the human army clashing with demons who are trying to take over another one of their towns, and the humans win big. Then the scene cuts to Ike using magic to make it rain on the fields. He explains that right now they grow wheat, let the fields rest, and then grow grass to feed livestock, which means the fields stay empty for a long time. Instead, they're going to rotate crops: barley, clover, wheat, and turnips, so they can keep the fields productive without needing rest periods. Sadie asks if they can eat clovers too, but Ike says clovers are for the livestock. He promises that if this works, neither demons nor humans will ever go hungry, and everyone's pumped about it. Later, Ike is in his study and Sadie brings him some tea. She congratulates him on his new vice commander title, and Ike brushes it off, saying it's no big deal, just a spot that needed filling. Jiren bursts in looking frazzled, and Ike asks what's happened. Jiren says that they have big trouble, and Sadie tells Jiren to use Ike's new title now. Jiren suddenly remembers Ike's promotion and apologizes for not addressing him properly, and he offers to take any punishment Ike wants to dish out. But Ike just wants to hear the news. Jiren struggles to remember what he came for, and Ike guesses it might be about the Alliance of Kings. Jiren finally recalls and explains that the Alliance's army started moving last night, and the Second Corps, which was aiming to take over Alesta, got defeated. He says the Second Corps was made up of fierce warriors who are all skilled, and he never thought they'd lose so badly. Ike realizes that the whole situation is because of the Alliance of Kings getting involved, and the clueless maid doesn't even know what that is. Ike explains that it's one of the oldest treaties humanity has ever had. When the Demon Lord's army gets too strong for just one nation to handle on its own, all the nations on the continent join forces to take them down together. Jiren asks if there's ever been an Alliance army in the past, and Ike confirms it's happened 3 times before. Each time, the demon army was defeated. Hearing this, Jiren gets worried about their own safety, and Ike tells him that Ivalias is likely going to be the next target of this Alliance's attention. He explains that the Alliance took over Arsenum, which is a crucial base. If the humans want to take it back, they'll need to hit the front lines in Ivalias first. Ike believes that while demons might be stronger than humans in a one-on-one fight, the real challenge comes from fighting against their overwhelming numbers and their ability to work together. If the Alliance manages to capture Ivalias, their army will head straight to Arsenum. Since they'll outnumber the defenders, they'll hit them with a concentrated attack, which would lead to Arsenum being lost. Ike explains that if this happens, their army will be forced to retreat back to Dauberberg. Jiren thinks this is a pretty bad situation. Ike agrees and adds that if this comes to pass, his dream of creating a town where humans and demons can live together peacefully will also come to an end. He tells them there's only one way to counter the numerical advantage of the humans, and that's with guns. The scene then shifts to Fiorentina talking to Ike and Sapphiro, telling them that they can't mass-produce guns using alchemy. Sapphiro is curious about why that's the case, and Fiorentina demonstrates a gun made by alchemy. The gun turns out to be weak and breaks after just one use. Sapphiro questions if they even need these guns, suggesting they could just flatten the humans with magic instead. But Ike points out that using magic on such a large scale would cause massive destruction, making it hard to rebuild afterward. He explains that they need weapons that are easy for anyone to use if they're going to fight the Alliance. Fiorentina says that while mass-producing guns will be tough, it might be doable if they make the parts separately and then assemble them. Sapphiro asks how they're going to produce such small parts, and Fiorentina mentions that the dwarves might be able to help with that. Sapphiro agrees but notes that the dwarves have been defeated by the humans and are now just a wandering tribe. They're gonna need a ton of dwarves to crank out the weapons they need, so Sapphiro asks Fiorentina how they're gonna get them all together. Fiorentina's got no clue, and Ike steps in, suggesting they bust out the Dwarf King who's locked up in the Ismuth Kingdom. Cut to the Dwarf King stuck in a cell in Ismuth. He's reminiscing about when the humans wiped out his people. After the defeat, the humans threw it in his face that things wouldn't have gone down this way if the dwarves had just listened to them from the start. The king had refused to let them use their tech for war. The humans, reminding him of the dire situation, threatened him by taking his son hostage. They demanded the dwarves use their skills for the Isthmus Kingdom's benefit if they wanted to survive. With no other options, the dwarves had to comply. They worked for the kingdom and then disperse across the lands. The king wonders where his people are now and notices the guards outside are fast asleep. Lilith shows up and unlocks his cell. The king is shocked to see a demon and asks what she wants. Lilith tells him to come with her, but he keeps asking questions, which annoys her. Lilith puts him to sleep like she did with the soldiers, and Jiren arrives. He asks her what the hell she did to the king, and she replies she got fed up with his endless questions. She says they need to get him out of there, and Jiren picks up the king. They move out, and Jiren is relieved they're not running into any guards, but Lilith finds it dull. Jiren reminds Lilith that they were told to keep a low profile and not get spotted carrying out the king. He tells her to shut up and keep moving. Lilith doesn't like his attitude and tells him he smells bad today. This ticks Jiren off, and the noise attracts the guards. As a succubus, Lilith drains the guards' vitality to take them out. Jiren tells her Ike wanted them to avoid fights if possible. Lilith ignores him, and he says he'll report this to Ike. Then another guard tries to attack Jiren, who surprisingly takes him down. Jiren realizes he's just gone against Ike's orders himself, and Lilith says she'll tell Ike about this, and Jiren begs her not to. The two of them finally get out of the dungeon and spot a bunch of soldiers hanging around. The soldiers go on high alert when they see the demons, and Jiren tells Lilith to do something. She starts sucking the life out of them, but she doesn't kill them. Ike sees the ruckus from a distance and thinks they were told not to draw attention. We watch as Lilith and Jiren bolt from the soldiers since Lilith's full and can't absorb anymore. Jiren's puzzled why there are so many soldiers, thinking the Alliance was supposed to have taken most of them out. Then Ike uses his magic to stop the soldiers from chasing them and asks his team if there were any issues. Jiren says everything's cool and that they've got the king too. Ike's surprised they're handling the king so roughly, and Jiren tries to wake him up by spinning him around. Ike has to remind him they need to be gentle with the king. Cut to the dwarf king Gunther waking up in a house in Avalius, and he sees Ike next to him. He asks why he's been freed, and Ike shows him a gun and asks if he can make more. Gunther sees it's pretty complex but thinks he can make more, though he has no plans to work for the demons. He figures Ike just wants to use them like the humans did and says he's not going to be anyone's slave. Ike gets why he'd think that, but says it's necessary for peace between humans and demons. Gunther's confused, not getting what Ike means. Ike asks him to follow and shows him how humans and demons are living together in his city. He tells Gunther he wants humans and demons to live in harmony, which is why he needs his help. Gunther thinks it's an interesting idea but can't get behind it because the humans exploited the dwarves and wrecked their country. So he doesn't want to help if it's just going to benefit the humans. Ike wonders if Gunther would be down to help if he could bring back the old peace. He promises that if Gunther helps mass-produce firearms, he'll ask the demon lord to rebuild the dwarf kingdom. Gunther thinks Ike's messing with him and tells him not to mock him. He says there's no point in rebuilding a nation without its people, but Ike insists he's serious and will prove it. He then takes Gunther to his smithy where a bunch of dwarves are busy crafting guns, and Gunther is totally blown away by what he sees. The dwarves are pumped to see their king back among them, and there's a heartwarming reunion with his son. Gunther's trying to piece together how all this happened, and his son explains that the demons just showed up, set them up with a place to live, and brought everyone back together. The dwarves are really grateful that Ike kept his word, and they're eager to show him what they can do in return. Ike asks Gunther again if he's going to back his ambitious plan, and Gunther agrees to lend a hand. They shake on it, and Gunther notes that Ike's hands are surprisingly warm for a demon. After that, Ike heads back to his study, and Sadie tries to make tea for him. But Ike tells her to chill and get some rest. Sadie says she prefers staying busy to distract herself. Ike suggests she could read some books if she's looking for something to do, and Sadie admits she can't read. Ike thinks being able to read is super important and says he'll teach her when he has some free time. Just as they're having a quiet moment, the succubus storms in and seeing them close together, asks the maid if she's trying to seduce Ike again. The maid calmly replies that she's just helping her master, but they start bickering about it. Ike tries to calm them down, and Jiren rushes in, saying there's trouble. We see that the allied nation's army has gathered outside of Avalius. One of the soldiers tells the general that the dwarf king was freed by the demons, and the general isn't worried, saying that old man isn't going to be of any use to the demons. Another soldier then arrives, and the general asks him how many troops are currently stationed in Avalius. The soldier reports there are 500 troops right now, but with all the brigade commanders coming in to support, that number will increase. The general then asks about their overall force and learns they got a total of 12,000 soldiers. So he's convinced there's no way they're going to lose this battle with that kind of manpower. After some time, we find Ike and a dwarf perched at the top of the cliff while Jiren is huffing and puffing, trying to make his way up. Ike could have easily helped him out with some levitation magic, but he figured Jiren could use the workout. Once Jiren finally makes it to the top, he's completely worn out and asks how much further they have to go. Thankfully, it seems they've already reached their destination. The dwarf reassures him, saying their goal is really close by, you can even see it from here. So he leads Ike and Jiren to a cave filled with natural niter, which is perfect for making gunpowder. Back in town, the dwarves are bustling, hard at work crafting the guns needed for Ike's army, and they've already made quite a few. To test them out, Jiren calls over some goblins and instructs them to fire the targets. As they do, the wooden planks become riddled with holes. Pleased with the results, Jiren orders the goblins to keep practicing with the guns. Meanwhile, the troops are gathering in town. The troop leaders are having a meeting with Ike and Sephiroth to discuss their war plans. The ogre asks Ike how he managed to get the city wall rebuilt so quickly when it should have taken at least twice as long. Ike explains that he had humans working alongside demons to speed up the process. He even paid the humans a decent wage for their work, which motivated them more than if they had been forced to do it. Just then, the gargoyle leader bursts through the roof with a dramatic crash. He's not too pleased about it, grumbling about how the room's too small for him. It's clearly built for humans and not for 10-foot-tall demons like him. After all, it's been a while since he's seen Ike, so he greets him with his new title of Vice Commander. Ike, however, isn't too concerned with the formalities and tells him it's really not necessary. With everyone finally gathered, Sephiroth kicks off the meeting. She's ready to make a big announcement. Ike is now in full command of all war operations. From this point forward, all troop leaders are required to follow his orders as he's their direct superior. There's a wave of respect in the room. After all, Ike earned a lot of admiration during his duel with Bastio. Every leader nods in agreement, ready to follow Ike's lead without question. The real challenge now is coming up with a strategy. The numbers are daunting. They have only 2,000 soldiers, while the enemy boasts a formidable 12,000. The Wolf Captain is optimistic, thinking that with their 6-to-1 odds, victory should be within reach. But Ike knows better. He points out that even if his wolf army is up to the challenge, there are still plenty of demons in their ranks who might struggle against such odds. Then the ogre proposes a daring plan, a night raid to catch the enemy off guard. But Ike quickly shoots this idea down. He's well aware that the enemy has mages among their forces, and a single detection spell could easily ruin any chance of a successful surprise attack. Instead, Ike decides to confront them on his own terms. He plans to let the human army make the first move. Their large numbers suggest they're brimming with confidence, and Ike wants to strip them of that arrogance. His goal is to make them falter and crumble, aiming to end the battle swiftly with minimal casualties on both sides. After the meeting wraps up, Sadie is busy cleaning up the mess caused by the hole in the roof, with Jiren lending a hand. Meanwhile, Ike is engrossed in studying a map, contemplating the upcoming battle. Sadie, noting the hustle and bustle around her, comments on how lively the city has become. Ike is surprised by her calm demeanor, especially with the impending war just hours away. Sadie reassures him that she's not frightened because she has faith that everyone in the city is determined to do their utmost to defend Ivalius. Although Sadie won't be on the front lines, she's found her way to contribute by preparing meals for the soldiers. However, she's a bit concerned about how to manage meal preparations for such a large group. Her experience is mostly limited to cooking soup in bulk, so she asks Ike if he has any suggestions. Ike starts rifling through his collection of recipe books, but Sadie quickly tells him it's unnecessary for him to go through all that trouble just for her. Ike explains that what the soldiers eat can significantly impact their morale. Therefore, he wants to ensure they receive the best possible meals. He's relieved there's no food shortage, as that would have been disastrous for the army's strength. While still flipping through the old recipe book, Ike inquires if they have rice available. Once Sadie confirms they do, Ike suggests she try making fried rice. Excited about the new recipe, Sadie heads straight to the kitchen. Even though she only just learned about fried rice, her cooking skills are impressive enough to earn approval from culinary expert Nick DiGiovanni. When she finishes cooking, Sadie serves a portion to Ike, and they both agree that it turned out splendidly. Fried rice is a great choice. It's quick to make, can be prepared in large quantities, and tastes delicious. So this creation is sure to lift the soldiers' spirits and boost their morale once they get a taste of it. As the group prepares to enjoy their freshly made fried rice, the moment is interrupted by Jiren, who's clearly envious of the delicious food and demands to join in. Ike, with a hint of amusement, offers Jiren a plate of rice, which he eagerly accepts. Just as they're about to start eating, Lilith bursts in, also envious of the meal and wanting to join. Both Lilith and Jiren are blown away by the flavor of the rice, especially Lilith, who is so taken with it that she asks Sadie for a second helping. Sadie, in her enthusiasm, piles the rice a bit too high, leading Lilith to jokingly accuse her of trying to make her fat. This sparks a stare down between the two, and Ike wishes they could enjoy the meal without turning it into a squabble for once. With the meal momentarily forgotten, Ike shifts his focus back to the preparations for the Alliance's invasion. He reflects on the progress made. The city walls have been fully repaired, a formidable army has been assembled, and all troops are equipped with guns to ensure their success. So now the next step is to execute his strategy. Meanwhile, an ogre stationed as a lookout spots the Alliance's army approaching and promptly sounds the alarm, so Jiren rushes over to inform Ike that the time has come for the army to engage. Ike then steps out with his troops, ready to confront the Alliance. He addresses the assembled soldiers, emphasizing that if the Alliance breaches their defenses, they will proceed to attack Arsenum, which would be catastrophic for the demon forces, so he stresses the importance of protecting Ivalius at all costs. The troops rally around Ike's words, cheering in unison. But meanwhile, the human army's commander expresses his disappointment, noting that the demons are far fewer in number than he had anticipated. All the effort he put into assembling the best soldiers from across the country seems almost excessive now, so he wonders if his massive force might actually be overkill. And he dismisses the situation as less of a war and more of an extermination. He then shifts his focus to his next goal and orders his troops to advance with relentless determination, commanding them to ensure that every single demon is eradicated. But as the human army advances and begins using their heavy artillery, Ike casts a barrier to shield the castle from the barrage of projectiles. Despite Ike's efforts, the human commander remains relentless and orders another round of heavy fire. The enemy troops keep up the assault, trying to overwhelm Ike's barrier. Ike remains steadfast, showing no signs of exhaustion, and his soldiers rally around him, their cheers echoing across the battlefield. Although Ike expected this kind of sustained attack, he's now focused on anticipating the enemy's next move. The human commander sees Ike's barrier holding up against their attacks and, not one to be easily deterred, orders his troops to launch another barrage. Lilith and Giron watch with a mix of disbelief and amusement at the futile attempts to break through Ike's defenses, so they can't help but mock the human army's repetitive assault on the barrier. However, this time the humans have a trick up their sleeve. They deploy their magicians to disrupt Ike's barrier, causing it to become unstable and allowing the rocks to land on their target. With the barrier finally giving way, the human commander seizes the moment and commands his first squad to charge. Just as the soldiers begin their advance toward the walls, they are stopped dead in their tracks by the sudden appearance of a titan from behind the walls. The titan starts launching enormous rocks at the advancing soldiers, crushing several under the massive boulders. And when Erwin from Attack on Titan isn't here to motivate them, they start thinking of running away. But then Ike's soldiers start firing arrows to back up the titan's assault, so human soldiers use their shields for defense and realize they can fight back. So before the titan can throw another boulder at them, they take aim and shoot the titan multiple times in his chest, eventually bringing it down. With the titan out of the picture, the human forces turn their attention back to the walls, so Giron and the others scramble for cover as the arrows continue to rain down. Ike then puts up another barrier to shield his soldiers from the incoming arrows, but the human soldiers, undeterred, manage to get close enough to start hooking ladders onto the walls and climbing. But of course, Ike's soldiers will not let them climb up so easily, so they start firing arrows and throwing rocks to push back the invaders. Despite their efforts, the human army's numerical advantage means that if they keep climbing, it's only a matter of time before some of them make it to the top. But it's definitely not going to be any of these poor suicide soldiers. As the battle rages on, the human vice commander remarks on how much tougher the demons are proving to be than he anticipated. He's confident that with enough sustained assault, they'll eventually break through. But as he surveys the scene of his men dying, his thoughts seem to drift away from the battlefield, and the only thing occupying his mind is what he'll be having for dinner later. He's eager to wrap things up quickly so he can relax and enjoy his damn meal. So without a second thought, he orders another catapult attack on the wall, even though it means sending many of his own men to hell. The vice commander protests, concerned about the safety of their damn troops, but the human commander dismisses his worries because he doesn't give a damn about them and orders the freaking catapults to fire. Ike spots the incoming projectiles and attempts to shield the castle with another barrier. Unfortunately, the barrier gets disrupted again, and Ike shouts for everyone to brace themselves. The barrage slams into the walls with devastating force, causing severe damage to the structure and resulting in heavy casualties on both sides of the humans and that of the demons. Amidst the chaos, the lucky piggy manages to stay safe, while Lilith is very disgusted by the commander's disregard for his own men's lives just to breach the defenses. Ike too feels a mix of sorrow and anger at the sight of such reckless disregard for life. The commander, with a smug smile, seems to relish the destruction he's causing. Then, without any sign of hesitation, he orders the second squad of soldiers to advance through the newly created breach in the wall. So Ike's remaining forces prepare to defend their position, and the battle starts raging fiercely, with both sides fighting desperately. Meanwhile, in the city, Seti is busy tending to the wounded demons while Ike gears up for his counteroffensive. Over in the human camp, the general is casually sipping tea, confident in his imminent victory and hoping to wrap things up quickly. The commander sends in the third squad to join the second in battling the demons, intensifying the fight. Back at the fort, Ike is taken aback by the speed of the human assault, but he's determined to turn the tide. As Sadie continues caring for the injured, she can't help but worry about Ike amid the chaos of war. Next, we see Lilith locked in battle with the humans, struggling as she becomes overwhelmed by the sheer number of soldiers attacking her. The other demons are also under heavy pressure, and Jiren hesitates to deploy the gun squad, fearing they might accidentally hit their own in the chaotic melee. But then, the werewolf battalion led by Bio charges into the fray, mowing down enemies with brutal efficiency. The humans, realizing they can't match the werewolves in a fair fight, desperately try to concentrate their forces against a single demon. That's when the gun squad finally opens fire. The humans raise their shields, but it's futile. Those bullets cut right through, taking down soldier after soldier. The sight of these strange, powerful weapons terrifies the humans, and they start to retreat in panic. Bio's werewolf battalion is ready to chase them down, but Ike calls them back, leaving Bio frustrated. Watching how the war is playing out, Fiorentina recalls their strategy meeting where Ike had told them they needed a quick and decisive victory. He emphasized ending the war fast and with as few casualties as possible. Gamma's the Ogre Battalion leader liked the plan, but the leader of the Fanged Beast Battalion was curious about Ike's specific strategy. Ike simply told them to give it their all in battle, and Baio wondered if Ike had started underestimating them since becoming the vice commander. Fiorentina told Baio to chill out and let Ike explain. Ike then asked Baio how long he could go full throttle in a fight. Baio confidently said he could keep up the intensity for an hour, which Ike found impressive. But Ike knew Baio's battalion wouldn't be able to hang in there that long. Baio admitted that his troops could probably only last about 30 minutes at max effort. So Ike ordered them to go all out for just 10 minutes and then pull back. Baio wasn't sure if 10 minutes would cut it, but Ike assured him it would. Fast forward to the present, and we see soldiers trying to breach the wall. Fiorentina quickly steps in, using her alchemy to create demon spikes and seal a breach. She's feeling good, thinking everything's on track. Then the Ogre Battalion smashes through the wall to attack the humans, literally crushing them with their brute strength. Fiorentina is annoyed that they busted the wall she just fixed, but she remembers Ike saying that even their allies going rogue is part of the plan. The ogres don't hold back, wiping out the humans without a second thought. Seeing the ogres' raw power, the human army decides to retreat. During the strategy session, Ike can explain that Gammas would step in after Baio's battalion pulled back. Baio was pissed, thinking Ike didn't trust them, but Gammas caught on to what Ike was planning. Fighting in shifts, just like when they repaired the gate, would keep their forces fresh and wear out the humans. Ike confirmed Gammas was right, but Baio, being a bit thick-headed, still didn't fully grasp it. Ike laid it out plainly. Their strength would fade as the battle dragged on, but by rotating shifts, they could keep the humans off balance and always fight at full power. Baio finally got it and realized how smart the strategy was. In the present, Gamma's battalion is still in the thick of it, battling humans who just won't retreat. One of those pesky humans manages to slip past them, scales the wall, and makes a move on Fiorentina. But before he can even get close, Jarvan takes him down like it's nothing. He tells Fiorentina to keep her guard up. The story then flashes back to the strategy meeting. Baio, sounding worried, asked Ike if they could really take down the entire human army, given how many of them were planning to storm the city. Ike explained that this is exactly where Fiorentina's alchemy team and Jiren's gun squad would come into play, luring the enemy in and limiting their attack range. Fiorentina quickly realized that they'd need to lure the enemy closer on purpose, a risky move. Ike asked her if she could handle this, pointing out it would be the toughest part of the battle. Fiorentina, ever the warrior, said she'd get it done even if it cost her life. But Ike shut that down, forbidding her from risking herself. He reminded everyone that the goal of this strategy was to minimize their casualties and made sure they didn't forget it. Back in the present, the human army readies their catapults, thinking they're about to unleash hell on the demons. But the second they try to fire, their catapults get wrecked by falling rocks. Turns out they're under attack by the Fanged Beasts. The Fanged Beasts leader recalls how Ike told them to act as a guerrilla squad, taking out the enemy's catapults and other long-range weapons. They got it done, and Ike had already explained that according to his scouts, the human army had over 12,000 soldiers, with reserves on standby. The demons, seeing this, couldn't help but think there were way too many humans in the world, and they found it seriously annoying. Ike then elaborated that the human general comes from an honorable family with a long and storied history, a man who values his own safety and reputation above all else. Fiorentina quickly understood that taking down this general could be the key to turning the tide of the battle. Ike confirmed her thoughts, saying that the general would likely make a move if they managed to shift the momentum in their favor. He revealed his plan to locate and capture the general, which left Baio puzzled, wondering why Ike would want to capture him rather than just kill him. Ike, maintaining his calm composure, told him to trust his judgment and refrain from acting without his go-ahead. With a confident assurance, he thanked them for their trust, reiterating that they were going to win this war. The story shifts back to the present, where the Fanged Beast Battalion continues to rain down stones on the humans below, and Jiren watches with satisfaction as Ike's plan unfolds perfectly. Then we see, while Fiorentina focusing on the battle, she can't help but hope that Sapphiro is safe. Her mind drifts back to Ike's briefing, where he mentioned that Sapphiro would also be playing a key role in this battle. He had hinted that the task assigned to Sapphiro might just be the most critical mission of all. Meanwhile, Sapphiro is stuck keeping an eye on the reserve forces of the human army, rumbling about how she's supposed to be the general, not Ike's errand girl. But then she spots the commander of the reserve forces and, with a bit of a wicked grin, thinks to herself that he looks downright delicious. Back at the fort, we see the demons absolutely wiping the floor with the humans, who are left scratching their heads, wondering how they're getting thrashed despite having the numbers on their side. The human general gets the news that their forces have breached part of the wall, but the demons aren't letting them push any further. The second and third squads are almost entirely wiped out, and the commander suggests they pull back before things get even worse. But the general is too stubborn and full of himself, so he orders an all-out attack instead. The commander tries to talk some sense into him, suggesting they rethink their strategy, but the general isn't having any of it. He snaps at the commander, saying that if 2 squads aren't enough, that they'll just throw more men at the problem. He's worried about his reputation, thinking he'll be a laughingstock if he can't even take over a small city. He decides to join the battle himself, hoping it'll boost the troops' morale. The commander, with no other choice, orders the soldiers to gear up, announcing that the general will be fighting alongside them. This news gets the soldiers all riled up, and they start marching toward the fort. Jaren is shocked to see them coming in full force despite losing 2 squads already, and wonders if these humans even know what fear is. Fiorentina bluntly tells him they're just stupid. Jaren, however, is more concerned, questioning how they're going to end this, as it could drag on forever without a solid plan. Fiorentina decides it's time for them to act, and just as the human army advances, the ground splits open beneath them. Many soldiers fall into the crack, meeting their end, while the rest realize that the demon mages might be behind this. They start wondering what their own damn magicians are up to, only to discover that the demons have captured them. Fiorentina is impressed and wonders if this was Ike's magic at work, thinking to herself that it's downright astonishing. Seeing the situation unfold, the human general starts to panic, wondering what the hell just happened. Then his horse senses a powerful presence nearby, so it bolts, leaving him stranded, and that's when the general spots Ike standing right in front of him. Ike coldly informs him that his army suffered massive casualties just to pinpoint his location. He adds that it all ends if he takes the general out right here and now, confident that the rest of the human army will retreat and pin the blame for their loss on him. Ike offers the general a way out, order an immediate retreat, and he'll be spared. But the general, thinking Ike wouldn't dare kill him since he needs him to command the retreat, so he acts smug and full of himself. Then out of nowhere, the dwarven king Gunther charges in with his axe and slams it into the general, knocking him to his knees. Gunther, with his eyes burning with vengeance, asks if the general remembers him and declares he's here to settle the score. Just as Gunther is about to deliver the killing blow, Ike stops him with his magic, leaving Gunther confused and frustrated. Gunther yells that he's going to kill this guy, but no matter how hard he tries, he can't break through Ike's bindings. Realizing he's out of options, the general, now fully aware of his situation, starts begging for mercy. Desperate to save his own skin, he orders his soldiers to retreat, and just like that, the human forces start pulling back. Gunther, watching them leave, mutters that they'll surely come back someday, and while he's grateful to Ike for saving them, he's convinced that letting them go is a mistake they'll regret. Ike, however, is unfazed. He figures it doesn't matter. By the time they return, they'll be even stronger. Meanwhile, the demons are ecstatic, celebrating their victory over an army 10 times their size. They decide it's time to crack open some drinks and celebrate their hard-earned win. Jaren wraps Ike in a bear hug, celebrating their victory, but Ike tries to wriggle free, only to realize Jaren has no intention of letting go. Lilith then jumps in, insisting Jaren release Ike so she can reclaim her rightful spot by his side. But Jaren stubbornly holds on, prompting Lilith to cling to Ike as well. Just when Ike thinks he's had enough, Sadie shows up, claiming her own share of credit for helping in the battle by healing the wounded. Now all 3 are practically suffocating Ike, who desperately pleads for them to stop before they literally squeeze the life out of him. The battalion leaders watch this chaos unfold and can't help but admire their general's wisdom in choosing Ike as his vice commander. They're genuinely grateful that Ike allowed them to showcase their skills, and some even believe he might have won the war solo. But Fiorentina reminds them that Ike himself said this chaotic strategy only worked because of the trustworthy allies by his side. The other leaders, amazed by this revelation, gain even more respect for Ike, seeing him as a truly dependable ally. Meanwhile, Sapphiro is squaring off against the reserve forces when their leader steps forward, ready to challenge her. But just as they're about to clash, he notices his army retreating, so Sapphiro considers him incredibly fortunate. He vows they'll meet again and retreats with his troops. Sapphiro then thinks to herself that this outcome was expected from Ike, so she decides it might be time to make her next move, but she decides to leave that decision to the Demon Lord. The scene then shifts to Ike, calmly watching the aftermath of the battle and lost in thought. The scene shifts to Sapphiro praising Ike for his recent victory, to which Ike humbly replies that it's all thanks to the support of the 7th Legion. Sapphiro acknowledges that he is still modest, but quickly moves on to his next assignment, a mission to Xenobia. She informs him that the human army is gearing up to strike against the demons, and it's all happening because he successfully repelled the Royal Alliance army. Ike points out that they need to prepare for this and asks if there are issues with their supplies. Sapphiro confirms his suspicion, explaining that while Ike's efforts have improved farming in Avalius, it's still not enough to sustain their entire army in the event of a full-scale war. That's why she wants him to negotiate a trade deal with the Federation in Xenobia. Realizing the gravity of the task, I can't help but think that Sapphiro always hands him the most challenging jobs. He questions whether she truly believes the humans can negotiate with demons. Sapphiro calmly assures him that this is exactly why she's assigning the task to him, but Ike expresses concern about managing Avalius in his absence, so Sapphiro confidently tells him not to worry, she'll take care of things while he's gone. The scene then shifts to Jaren and Lilith storming into Ike's office, completely stunned by the news that Ike is heading to Xenobia. Ike confirms it without hesitation, and Jaren immediately declares that he'll accompany Ike, vowing to protect him with his life. Lilith snaps back, insisting that she will be the one to go with Ike. She even tells Ike that she's getting ready to leave right now, but Jaren keeps pushing to be the one at Ike's side. As the two bicker over who gets to accompany Ike, Ike calmly informs them that neither of them will be going this time. He explains that Ivalius has recently gained some fame, attracting a surge of homeless people and refugees. This influx has led to an increase in conflicts, and he wants Lilith to maintain peace in the town. He then tells Jaren that he'll be in charge of governing the city while he's gone. Lilith half-jokingly asks if she's supposed to beat the troublemakers into submission, adding that she might mess things up if left behind. Ike firmly forbids her from using violence, while Jaren also grumbles that he can't do his job properly unless he's by Ike's side. After what feels like an eternity of back and forth, Ike finally convinces them to stay and handle things in town, and they reluctantly agree to do their best. The scene then shifts to Sadie and Ike traveling to Xenobia on horseback, with Sadie beaming with happiness at being chosen to accompany him. She expresses a bit of guilt for Jaren and Lilith, but Ike just laughs, pointing out that the two of them would be in absolute chaos if they knew she was the one coming along. Meanwhile, back in Ivalius, Lilith and Jaren search frantically for Sadie, only to realize in frustration that she's the one who snuck off with Ike. Back in the forest, Sadie asks Ike what kind of place Xenobia is, so Ike clarifies that it's not really a country, but more of a trade city, a confederation of cities to be exact. He goes on to explain that Xenobia thrives on commerce, with its warm climate allowing them to grow crops that are unique to the southern regions. Sadie is intrigued and wonders if that means the city is overflowing with fruits and vegetables. Ike confirms that Xenobia has everything you can imagine, and we see that they're already approaching the city. He then drops the bombshell that the fate of the Demon Lord's army hinges on how well his negotiations go. Sadie, ever curious, asks if the Demon Army has ever struck a deal with humans before. Ike admits that it's unlikely, so Sadie quickly realizes just how challenging this task will be. Ike agrees, adding that this is exactly why he brought her along, because she's living proof that humans and demons can coexist peacefully. He emphasizes that without securing more supplies, they're destined to lose the war against the Alliance of Nations, making this negotiation the make-or-break moment for the Demon Lord's army. Suddenly, they hear someone crying out in pain, and they rush to investigate. Meanwhile, not far from them, a carriage is under attack by a notorious group known as the Redbeard Pirates. The pirates easily overpower the guards and close in on the carriage, only to discover a cute young woman inside. They didn't expect their target to be so attractive, and one of them attempts to grab her. But before he knows it, something terribly goes with him, and the girl notices that most of the pirates are suddenly ensnared by magic. That's when Ike arrives at the scene, casually telling the girl that he's there to rescue her. She's instantly flustered by his presence, and he's taken aback by how much she resembles Sadie. The remaining pirates try to attack Ike, but he effortlessly captures them with his magic as well. The young woman's guards, who had been outmatched just moments ago, are stunned to see Ike defeat the infamous Redbeard pirates so easily. Ike then uses his healing magic on the injured guards, advising them to see a doctor soon because he hasn't fully healed their wounds, and they gratefully thank him for his help. The young woman is clearly captivated by Ike, and she introduces herself as Yuria Octave, the daughter of Xenobia's leader. Ike is surprised to learn this, while a pirate hiding nearby takes note of Yuria's identity. The scene then shifts to Ike and Sadie traveling in a carriage alongside Yuria, who is brimming with gratitude for Ike after he saved her life. Ike in turn thanks Yuria for escorting them to Xenobia. Yuria, impressed by Ike's magical prowess, asks if he's a nobleman. Ike, keeping his true identity under wraps, casually replies that he's just a magician from Ismuth, introducing himself under the alias Reich. He introduces Sadie without any alias, and Sadie, clearly enjoying the ride, remarks that she feels like a princess. Yuria, curious, asks if this is Sadie's first time in a carriage. Sadie confirms it is, and Ike explains that she's his maid, sheltered from the outside world. Yuria relates to her, admitting that she's also inexperienced with the world beyond Xenobia. She reveals that this was her first time leaving the city, having been on a blind date with a high-ranking official that didn't go as planned. Ike, puzzled, can't fathom why anyone would turn her down, but Yuria quickly clarifies that it was she who rejected him. She smiles, adding that she's glad it happened, because otherwise she wouldn't have met Ike. The scene then cuts to their arrival in Xenobia, where Yuria introduces Ike and Sadie to her mother, Eltria Octave, the formidable leader of the Trade Federation, and Eltria thanks Ike for rescuing her daughter. As she continues her work, she wonders aloud if Ike is comfortable talking business while she's busy, and Ike assures her that he's fine with it. Yuria, feeling a bit apologetic, explains that her mother's workload is intense, and then she declares that she would like to offer Ike a reward for his heroic act of saving her. But Ike politely declines the offer. Then, as Eltria continues working, Ike reflects on her status. She's not just any leader, but the chairperson of Xenobia's council, a position she's earned purely through her own merits, and he silently acknowledges how fortunate he was to have saved Yuria. Eltria, noticing his thoughtful expression, snaps him out of his reverie by asking what's on his mind. She then instructs Yuria to wait outside, signaling that she needs to discuss something important with Reich. As Yuria leaves the room, Eltria cuts straight to the chase, asking what the Demon Lord's army truly wants from her. Ike is caught off guard by how quickly Eltria has figured him out and asks her how she came to that conclusion. She calmly explains that there's no record of a magician named Reich in Ismuth, and her guards, along with her daughter, have informed her of his extraordinary magical abilities. She adds that it's not exactly rocket science to figure out a powerful magician with a fake identity shows up right when the Alliance of Nations is at war with the demons. Her intuition also nudged her in that direction, but what truly baffles her is the idea of a human aligning with the Demon Lord's army. At this point, Ike drops the act and truthfully introduces himself as the Lord of the Valias. Eltria acknowledges that she's heard whispers about him, and Ike confirms that yes, despite being human, he's part of the demon army. Eltria, processing this, asks if that means he's chosen the demons over humans. Ike clarifies that his parents were human, but he was raised as a demon by Romberg, the Undine King. Eltria cuts to the chase and asks what he's after, so Ike tells her straight up that the demon army wants to strike a deal with Zenobia. Eltria finds this proposition unprecedented, and she's quick to remind him that demons have historically been all about wiping out humanity, so doing business with them would be a massive gamble. Ike acknowledges the past, but insists that things have changed, and he explains that he fights for a future where humans and demons can coexist peacefully. Eltria is taken aback by this idealistic vision and admits that the current demon lord has a somewhat better reputation than his predecessors, but in her eyes, demons are still demons, and there's always the risk they'll flip the script. Ike tries to reassure her that this won't happen, but when she asks for proof, he has nothing concrete to offer. Eltria is unimpressed, and she is ready to end the conversation, assuming he has nothing more to add. That's when Ike brings up the Trade Federation's ongoing pirate problem and boldly states that he'll take out Karosa, the infamous captain of the Redbeard Pirates. Eltria is taken aback by Ike's bold offer, noting that these pirates have been a persistent thorn in her side for far too long. She explains that the destruction they cause is on par with the city's entire annual budget, and if she doesn't take action soon, the situation will only escalate, potentially jeopardizing her leadership. Given the gravity of the situation, she's open to considering Ike's proposal, but she lays out two conditions. First, he must eliminate the pirates as promised. Secondly, she throws in a shocking twist. She wants him to marry her daughter, Yuria. Ike is stunned by this unexpected demand and quickly points out that he's part of the demon army. Eltria, however, remains unfazed, pointing out that Ike is intelligent and sincere, and is poised to play a significant role in the demon lord's army in the future, so establishing a strong alliance with him now could prove advantageous down the line. Before Ike can fully process this, a guard bursts into the room, breathlessly informing Eltria that the Redbeard pirates are attacking their port. The scene shifts to the chaos at the port, where the pirates are looting supplies and forcibly taking women aboard their ship, ruthlessly killing anyone who stands in their way. The guards are struggling to evacuate the civilians, while the pirates unleash destruction on the city with their ship's cannons. The pirate leader Karosa then steps forward, arrogantly declaring that he warned them about this outcome and orders his crew to crush any resistance. Eltria, recognizing the urgency of the situation, turns to Ike and asks if he's ready to accept her conditions as time is running out. Then we see Ike rush to the scene, but by the time he arrives, the pirates have already fled. He spots a guard trapped under some rubble and quickly rescues him. Asking if he's alright, the guard assures him that he is. Ike inquires about what happened, and the guard explains that the pirates targeted the goods on a ship that was supposed to depart today. He also mentions that there was an entire ship full of pirates, and Ike initially dismisses their numbers as small, but the guard quickly warns him not to underestimate them, revealing that their leader Karosa is a powerful magician. The guard adds that the pirates are notorious for their stealth, able to launch surprise attacks with deadly precision. He advises that while the pirates might be defeatable, locating their hideout would be crucial to any successful counterattack. Ike realizes they need to outsmart the pirates by setting a trap where the pirates are most likely to strike again, so he instructs the guard to ensure all weapons and reinforcements are ready immediately. The guard hurries off to follow Ike's orders, and while Ike gathers his team to devise a more detailed strategy, Sadie approaches him, offering to help out in the kitchen since she feels she's not much use in military matters. Ike agrees, and the scene shifts to Sadie in the kitchen. The cooks mistake her for Yuria, treating her with formal respect, but she quickly clarifies that she's just a maid who accompanied Reich. But the cooks still politely insist they can't let a guest help them. Later, Yuria approaches Ike after he finishes strategizing, wanting to discuss something important. They retreat to a private room, and Yuria brings up the topic of their proposed marriage. Ike, sensing her discomfort, immediately apologizes and offers to convince her mother to cancel the arrangement. However, to his surprise, Yuria confesses that she actually wants to marry him. She admits she fell in love with him at first sight and asks him to be her husband. Ike, caught off guard, reminds her that they've only known each other for half a day and suggests she doesn't know him well enough yet. Yuria, feeling vulnerable, begins to cry, wondering aloud if he dislikes her. Ike, flustered, tries to comfort her, not realizing that Sadie is spying on them from the hallway. Sadie, witnessing the scene, is both amazed and confused by how quickly nobles move on such matters, and she can't shake the strange sensation growing in her chest. When Ike senses someone at the door and goes to check, Sadie has already slipped away. The story then follows Sadie as she wanders through town, searching for something that might please Ike. Then we see that the pirate from earlier is tailing her, and when she turns into a dark alley, he seizes the opportunity to grab her and knocks her out cold. The next scene shows Sadie regaining consciousness, surrounded by pirates. She pretends to remain unconscious, listening to their conversation. The pirate who captured her instructs the others to step aside, declaring her a gift for their captain. The pirates disperse, leaving her alone with her captor. As he looks at her, the kidnapper smirks, confident that she'll please the captain after all. He believes she's Yuria, the daughter of Zenobia's leader. Realizing the grave misunderstanding, Sadie panics and tries to escape, silently praying for Ike to rescue her. But as she stumbles out of the room, her heart sinks when she sees that they are already out at sea, and a crushing wave of despair engulfs her. Afterwards, Kurosa spots Sadie and wonders if this is the girl his subordinate captured. His subordinate confirms, and Kurosa quickly realizes they snatched the wrong person, but doesn't really mind since he's been looking for a new maid anyway. Seeing herself stuck in this mess, Sadie remembers her master. Back in town, Ike finds out that Sadie has been kidnapped. The soldier who was supposed to protect her apologizes for his carelessness and suspects pirates are behind the abduction. They believe the pirates have likely escaped to the sea, making it tough to track them down. But Ike isn't the type to sit still, so he insists he'll track them down himself and asks Eltria to lend him a ship. She agrees and provides him with a ship named Vidine. We then see Ike sailing the seas aboard the Vidine, hoping he can reach Sadie in time. As he sails, he recalls all the joyful moments he shared with her and vows that he will save her, no matter what. Back on the pirate ship, Sadie is dressed in a hot, pervy outfit meant to satisfy Kurosa's twisted tastes, leaving her feeling embarrassed and humiliated. She questions why she has to wear such an outfit, and he explains that it's a maid's job to serve their master every way possible. To him, this means she should obey his every command and fulfill his desires without question. But Sadie isn't happy with this nonsense, and she recalls the time when Ike made her his maid. He promised to protect her in exchange for her service. He asked if she was alright with that deal, and Sadie agreed, feeling content with those terms. Sadie is now determined to get out of this situation and find her way back to her master, so she proposes doing something more maid-like instead of being chained up like a captive. She offers to cook for Kurosa, and he agrees to let her try. The scene shifts to Sadie in the kitchen, prepping some vegetables while eyeing the guards stationed there to keep an eye on her. She scans the kitchen for anything that could help her make a break for it. Then a plan starts to form in her mind, and she casually asks the guards if they have any alcohol, and she adds that it will be better if it is something stronger. The guards, a bit skeptical, ask if she's planning to drink, but she smoothly replies that she intends to use it as a seasoning to enhance the flavor of the food. Falling for her story, they bring her some alcohol, which she promptly pours into a pan while grilling some meat. The generous splash of alcohol causes the pan to flare up, and the guards rush to extinguish the flames before it becomes a full-blown disaster. But Sadie spills some alcohol on one of the guards, and the fire spreads to his clothes. Once the guard manages to save his burning buddy, they angrily order Sadie to clean up the mess, but they soon realize that she has vanished. We then see Sadie darting away, trying to stay out of sight. Then she bumps into some pirates on her escape route, but manages to hide before they notice her. The pirates then hear the chaos in the kitchen and decide to check it out, assuming it's just their crewmates squabbling over food again. Meanwhile, Sadie opens one of the many crates piled up around her hiding spot and discovers goods that have clearly been stolen from the town. She thinks she needs to report this to her master, but then she remembers she's on a ship, and no matter how strong he is, finding her out at sea will be no easy task. She contemplates her options and spots a lit candle nearby, and an idea sparks in her mind. The scene then shifts to Kurosa gleefully examining another pervy maid outfit, clearly excited to see Sadie wear it. But before this twisted fantasy can unfold, one of his subordinates bursts in, panicking to report that the ship is on fire, and then we see the entire ship engulfed in flames, burning wildly out of control. Then we see Sadie hiding inside a barrel, and we quickly find out she's the mastermind behind this chaos. She hopes the blazing fire will catch her master's eye, while the pirates are scrambling all over the ship, desperate to find her. They're itching to teach her a lesson for daring to defy them, so Sadie stays hidden, quietly tucked away in the barrel. And when things suddenly get quiet outside, she decides to peek out, only to find the two guards from earlier standing right in front of her. They brag that their noses are sharp enough to sniff out a woman, and they kick the barrel to force her out. They demand that she surrender quietly, but Sadie has other plans. In one swift move, she smashes one of them with the barrel cap like she's the new Captain America. She makes a run for it, confident that her master will come to save her. But before she gets far, Kurosa uses his magic to paralyze one of her legs. He tells her he won't kill her, but says she must be punished for her actions, and he decides to take one of her legs. Just as one of the pirates moves in to hack off her leg, Ike bursts in just in time, blasting the pirate away with a spell. Kurosa is taken aback and demands to know who this stranger is. Ike firmly states that he promised to protect Sadie, and he's here to keep that promise. He makes it clear that none of them are getting away with what they've done, and Sadie rushes to his side relieved. Kurosa, not backing down, orders his men to kill Ike, and they charge at him. But Ike stops some of them cold with a barrier spell and fries the others with a bolt of lightning magic. He then unleashes a gust of wind magic, sending the remaining pirate lackeys flying off the ship. Sadie looks around a bit surprised and wonders if it's already over. So Ike turns to her and asks if she's alright, and she nods, assuring him she is. He's relieved she's unharmed, and she thanks him for his concern, even though she sees herself as just a slave. She thinks she can easily be replaced, but Ike cuts her off, saying she's his maid, and he would never abandon her. He tells her he saw her signal from afar, which proved her trust in him, and he praises her for her bravery and quick thinking. But before the moment can get any more touching, Kurosa, who was still lurking on the ship, cuts in and thinks that Ike is no ordinary mage. And without wasting a second, he blasts a powerful water cannon at Ike and Sadie, but Ike skillfully blocks it with a barrier. Kurosa is impressed that Ike managed to track down his ship, but he quickly claims Sadie as his own now and strikes at Ike with a burst of water magic. Ike dodges effortlessly, making sure to block the attack to shield Sadie. Ike then retreats inside the ship, and Kurosa chases after him, smugly thinking there is nowhere for them to run since they're stuck on a ship. He launches another water cannon attack, blasting them right off the deck. Kurosa briefly thinks he might have gone too far, but then he notices Ike still standing, floating over the water with Sadie beside him. Ike then begins charging up a powerful water spell, reminding Kurosa that he said none of them would get away with this. He unleashes his spell called Aqua Tempest, and from a distance, Ike's crew on the other ship sees the chaos unfolding and wonders what's going on. But suddenly, Kurosa comes flying straight into their ship, leaving them in shock. Not long after, Ike and Sadie join them on the ship as well, and Ike casually mentions that they should head back now. Later, we see their ship returning to Trade City with the captured pirate crew. Ike tells Sadie that he owes his success to her, and admits that he was only able to find the pirates because of her clever stunt, and thanks to that, they were also able to recover the stolen goods. And Sadie is delighted to hear him praise her efforts. The scene then shifts to Eltria, who commends Ike for capturing the pirates alive. Ike simply says he's not a fan of unnecessary killing, surprising her since he's in the Demon Lord's army. She points out that they should move on to their trade deal since he has met her conditions, and she insists on keeping this deal confidential. She warns that nothing good will come of it if the Alliance of Nations catches wind of it, and Ike agrees, expressing his gratitude that she's willing to do business with them. She then mentions that they should discuss the terms of the deal in more detail, and the two of them get down to negotiations. The scene shifts to a war-torn city in ruins, with the bodies of demons strewn across the streets. The remaining demons are injured and struggling to stay alive, and we soon learn that Sapphiro is in no better shape. One of her subordinates is desperately trying to heal her, but it's clear that their situation is dire because they're down to rations that will only last 3 more days. And Fiorentina discovers that their recent attack on the city yielded no supplies, and they soon realize they were lured into a trap. Sapphiro quickly deduces that the Alliance army is plotting to starve them out, so she says that she'll charge into battle again, but Fiorentina warns against it, pointing out that she isn't fully recovered. But Sapphiro isn't one to back down because she knows sitting around won't change their fate, so she's hell-bent on taking down as many humans as possible, even if it means going down with them. The scene shifts to Zenobia, where Ike is dressed to the nines in a sharp outfit. Sadie soon appears, looking stunning in a dress, and she compliments Ike on his look. He returns the compliment, but he's also concerned, wondering if she's really well enough to be out of bed. She reassures him that she's fine and insists it would be a shame to skip the party, especially since it's in their honor. Besides, she doesn't want to waste the beautiful dress Eltria gave her. But suddenly, Yuria comes barreling into Ike's arms, playfully pouting about him planning to leave her behind. Ike gently tries to peel her off, but she's oblivious. Sadie then notices the curious glances from people around them, so she points out they're attracting a bit too much attention. Realizing this, Yuria finally releases Ike. Sadie then tidies up Ike's slightly crooked outfit, and together, they make their way into the party hall. As they walk in, everyone's eyes are on Ike, and to them he looks like an ordinary guy, and they can't wrap their heads around why Yuria is head over heels for him. Yuria tells him not to worry about it, saying she finds him handsome and Ike appreciates the compliment. They make their way to Eltria, who warmly greets her daughter, complimenting her on how cute she looks as always, and adds that she clearly has an eye for talent, having picked Ike as her husband, and Yuria smugly replies that it's no surprise since she's her mother's daughter. Then Eltria casually drops the bombshell. She's leaving Yuria in Ike's care now, so Ike is blindsided and demands an explanation. So Eltria explains that since the treaty is finalized, he has to fulfill the remaining condition. The announcement soon follows that Ike and Yuria are set to get married, and Ike is left wondering how he ended up getting roped into a damn wedding when he only came here to seal a business deal. Eltria warns that if he refuses, she'll call off the trade agreement. Ike argues that this is all too sudden for him. But just then, something crashes into the party hall, providing a much-needed distraction. The entire mansion becomes enveloped in a thick white fog, and suddenly Ike finds himself face-to-face with the Demon Lord. She demands that he return with her immediately, warning that if he doesn't, Sapphiro is as good as dead. Elsewhere on the battlefield, we see Sapphiro struggling on the brink of losing her life against the human army. Darrow then urgently explains that although Sapphiro managed to capture Alesta, it turned out to be a trap set by the Alliance. The enemy deceived her into entering the castle and quickly surrounded the city, cutting off all routes of escape. Ike, realizing the gravity of the situation, asks how many enemy troops are we dealing with. Darrow responds with a tense voice, around 5,000 soldiers. She emphasizes that they have very little time left and that Ike must act quickly. She has done everything to prepare his brigade for deployment, but before Ike can give his answer, Darrow adds, I could go out there myself to save Sapphiro, but I want you to lead the rescue. Outside the besieged city, General Rudol listens as his scouts report that Alesta's defenses are on the verge of collapsing under constant attack. So Rudol decides to personally lead the next assault to ensure victory. Inside Alesta, the situation is dire, with Fiorentina fighting fiercely to repel the human army, commanding their remaining ogre soldiers to hold their ground and prevent the humans from overrunning them. However, the humans have skilled bowmen among their ranks, who rain down arrows on the ogres, picking off many before they can even engage. Fiorentina deflects the arrows with her weapon and charges forward, swinging her weapon with fierce strength, cutting down human soldiers one after another. Just as she begins to gain the upper hand, a bolt of lightning from a human mage strikes her down. The mage, with a smirk, mocks her toughness, saying this is as far as she goes while he's around. Back in Avalias, Ike and Sadie appear through a portal of teleportation magic. As the glow fades, Sadie marvels at the convenience of teleportation, but she is more relieved that Ike's engagement to Yuria has been delayed. She knows it's only a temporary reprieve, but for now it's a relief. But despite this, Ike still plans to return to Xenobia, knowing he can teleport back there anytime he wants. A few moments later, Jiren comes dashing into Ike's office the second he realizes Ike has returned. He looks like he's got trouble written all over his face, so Ike cuts straight to the point and demands to know what's going on. Jiren wastes no time and explains that the Alliance of Kings launched a massive all-out assault on Avalias while Ike was away. The city's in shambles. People are seriously injured from the attack, and Jiren can hardly believe the nerve of the Alliance to hit Avalias too. The city would have been completely lost if they hadn't been saved at the last minute. And though it sounds downright insane, Jiren tells Ike that the one who saved Avalias was a young girl. This girl was unbelievably strong, taking down all the enemy forces by herself. Ike quickly absorbs the situation and tells Jiren he will head to Alesta immediately to back up Sapphiro, so he needs to know how many troops are ready to move out right now. Jiren says around 100 troops were wounded in the last battle, so they only have about 500 soldiers fit for battle. But they need to leave some behind to defend in case of another attack, and even the count of 500 might be too hopeful. He asks Ike how many enemy soldiers they're facing. Ike lays out straight, we're up against 5,000 and honestly our odds of victory aren't looking too bright. Things would have been a lot easier if the other brigade leaders were here, but they're all caught up with other missions, so it looks like they're going to have to charge into this fight alone. Right then, Gunther strolls into Ike's office and mentions he might finally get the chance to repay his debt to Ike by lending a hand with this crisis. Ike waves him off, saying there's no need. After all, the guns he and his people crafted were more than enough to settle any debt. But Gunther insists, feeling compelled to do more after all the kindness Ike has shown. Plus, there are hundreds of dwarven warriors here, ready to join the fight and serve him well on the battlefield. Ike questions Gunther, asking if he's really alright with jumping into this battle, considering it has nothing to do with the dwarves. But Gunther, with a determined look, is more invested in the outcome than Ike expected. If the demon army wins and unites the world, the dwarves stand to gain a lot, especially since Ike has already promised to establish a country for them. Ike acknowledges the promise but points out that the demon army is struggling right now, so there's a chance he might not be able to fulfill it. But Gunther says that he doesn't mind, and if the demon army loses, then so be it. But Ike gave a home to all the dwarves who are wandering the land. And if nothing else, Gunther wants to stay with Ike until the end to repay him for his kindness. Ike gratefully accepts Gunther's offer. But it turns out Gunther isn't the only one eager to lend a hand. All the uninjured humans of Avalias are stepping up, ready to fight alongside him. Ike is surprised and asks them if they're sure about this, knowing it means aligning themselves with the demon army. The people of Avalias don't hesitate, and they tell Ike they have no idea how long this war will drag on, but they'd rather fight with their own hands to protect their homes than sit back and wait. The previous ruler had burdened them with impossible taxes, pushing them to the brink, working themselves to the bone just to meet ridiculous quotas. But under Ike's leadership, life has turned around. Things are better now than they ever were, and even their hatred of demons has long faded, especially after the last battle when demons gave their lives to help the humans escape to safety. So without Ike, many of them wouldn't have lived to see this day. So the least they can do is stand by his side after he gave them a chance at a better life. The piggy is firmly against the idea of accepting help from humans, but Lilith is fed up with his attitude and knocks him to the ground for having the audacity to try and tell Ike what to do. Sadie also jumps in right after, verbally tearing into him for his foolishness. And by the time they're done, Jerome is left lying there, staring down on the ground, questioning all his life choices, while Ike calmly addresses everyone who has agreed to join him in battle. He announces that he will split their forces into two. One group will come with him to Alesta, while the other will stay back to protect Avalias. But then Ike's expression grows serious as he gives special instructions to those who remain behind. He warns them that it's very likely the Alliance of Kings will attack again while he is away, and if that happens, he knows all too well they don't stand a chance of winning. So he firmly tells them to surrender immediately, because if they resist, the Alliance will label them as traitors and show no mercy, and maybe even execute them all. So under no circumstances should they provoke the Alliance of Kings. The next morning, Ike and his troops set off on their journey to Alesta, and it's a 4-day march by land. Thanks to everyone's support, Ike's squad has grown in size, but the enemy forces at Alesta still heavily outnumber him. He needs to come up with a strategy to turn the odds in his favor, and he silently hopes that Sapphiro and the others can hold on just a little longer until he can reach them. Meanwhile, in Alesta, Sapphiro is doing everything she can to keep the human forces at bay, but they're slowly being overrun by sheer numbers. The human soldiers just keep coming, and the difference in their strength is starting to show. Sapphiro knows she needs to find a way to separate the troops inside the walls from those outside. If she can't manage that soon, it won't be long before the demons are defeated. Hovering over the battlefield, she considers calling down a meteor strike, but she hesitates. She can't risk it while the orcs are still in the way, and the last thing she wants is to cause any friendly casualties. Deciding to target the troops outside the wall, Sapphiro makes her move, but before she can get close, a human mage blasts her out of the sky, crashing her hard to the ground. He then orders his human soldiers to quickly move to surround and capture her, but Sapphiro isn't ready to surrender, not yet. So she casts a divine spell, vines bursting from the earth, grabbing hold of every soldier within reach to create an opening for her escape. Then the vines start bursting from the earth beside her while she moves, forming a shield against the mage's relentless attacks. She then scrambles to a nearby rooftop, but the constant use of mana is taking its toll on her body. She tries to hold on just a little longer, hoping to cast one last spell to take out the soldiers beyond the wall. But in the middle of her spell, she is shot through the chest by General Rudol and collapses to the ground, where she is captured soon after. By the next morning, Sapphiro's forces have been nearly wiped out. The remaining human soldiers are sifting through the battlefield, debating which body parts of the demons will earn them the highest rewards. One demon, barely clinging to life, rises up and makes a last attempt to take down the unsuspecting humans, but he is quickly burned to a crisp by the human mage, who seems to enjoy his work a little too much. Then we see Sapphiro locked up in the dungeon, and Rudol is making his way down to see her. The guard in charge assures Rudol that Sapphiro is still kicking, but suggests they kill her right away since there's no point in keeping her around. Rudol replies that he has met Sapphiro before, and Sapphiro remembers. He was that soldier she held back during the first battle with the Alliance. She regrets not finishing him off back then, but it's too late to dwell on that now. Rudol casually mentions he's heard quite a bit about one of Sapphiro's subordinates, and he's certain that no decent subordinate would sit back if their commander got captured. Sapphiro quickly catches on. Rudol plans to use her as bait to lure Ike in and kill him too. Rudol then reveals he has orders to wipe out all members of the 7th Brigade, but until he takes everyone else down, he'll keep Sapphiro alive, as a professional courtesy of course. Meanwhile, Ike and his group are en route to Alesta, and Ike is busy thinking up a strategy that won't end in disaster for his team. After days on the road, Ike's group takes a breather, but he's still deep in thought, trying to figure out a winning plan. Gunther stops by, mentioning that the demons and humans have learned to work together, and that all the prototype weapons Ike asked for have been made. Ike thanks him for his efforts, but Gunther brushes it off, saying he doesn't need any thanks. Still, he does have a question. He's not itching to start fighting or anything, but since they're so close to Alesta, he's wondering when Ike will announce the battle plan. Ike tells him that things are still looking pretty grim, which is why he sent Jaren ahead to scout and see exactly what they're up against. By the time Jaren returns from his recon mission, he brings bad news for Ike. He takes Ike to a vantage point overlooking the city walls, where they see Sapphiro's clothes hanging from a pole. While this clearly indicates that Sapphiro was defeated, Ike believes she must still be alive. As they traveled here, Ike feared that Sapphiro might have already been killed, but seeing only her clothes and not her body gives him hope. Plus, feeding 5,000 soldiers is no small feat, so the Alliance likely wants to end the battle quickly, and the easiest way to do that is by using bait the other brigade members can ignore. However, even knowing that Sapphiro is alive, they have no idea of her current condition or if she's being tortured right now. Despite understanding that it's a trap, Ike knows they have no choice but to attack if they want to rescue Sapphiro as soon as possible. So they need to finalize their strategy before launching their assault, But first, Ike is going to need help from Gunther, Lilith, and Jiron. And once everything is set, they'll strike at dawn the next day. On the day of the attack, a human guard stands watch, minding his own business, when suddenly a massive wind spell erupts out of nowhere, firing straight at the tower. And instantly, everyone realizes it's an enemy attack. So the soldiers scramble to prepare countermeasures, but the sheer force is far beyond anything they are equipped to handle. Rudol then demands a status report and is quickly informed that part of the wall has been destroyed, though there are only 500 enemy soldiers, seemingly not enough to be a major threat. But Rudol sharply reminds his vice commander not to underestimate the enemy and to approach with extreme caution. Then we see the humans fire their catapults at the demon army, dealing significant damage, but Ike quickly raises his shield to protect his forces and urges them to hold the line until Saphiro and the other injured demons inside the castle can make their escape. Minutes into the assault, Rudol feels something is off and orders his men to cease fire. At first glance, it seems like an easy victory if he attacks Ike with his main force, but Rudol can't quite figure out what Ike's strategy is. Normally, Ike would be trying to breach the city defenses to rescue Saphiro, but his squad has barely moved and they clearly lack the numbers or firepower for a rescue attempt. Knowing Ike is a skilled commander, Rudol realizes there must be another plan in motion. He then asks the vice commander about the status of the prisoners in the basement, and the vice commander assures him they are under tight supervision. Yet sensing the stakes, Rudol decides to send Valtel down there as backup just in case. Meanwhile, down in the basement, one of the guards is relieved from duty. As he walks away, his shadow lingers behind, creeping under the cell door. Inside, the new guard sneers at Saphiro, mocking her by saying that her allies may have come for her, but he's certain they'll all be wiped out soon enough. He eyes her closely, noting the striking resemblance she bears to humans, so his gaze sharpens and his eyes begin to gleam with sinister intent as he decides he wants to taste the flavor of a demon woman. But before he can make a move, Lilith with her cold hand grabs him from behind and drains the life from his body in an instant. With the guard now incapacitated, Lilith kneels before Saphiro, apologizing for taking so long to reach her. Outside, Ike realizes Rudol has halted his attack, so he must have caught on to their plan somehow. Gunther then asks if it's time to launch a full-force attack, but Ike tells him they need to be patient a little longer. They still have to buy more time, so Ike unleashes another round of wind blasts at the wall, attempting to bait Rudol into resuming his assault. Rudol sees right through Ike's strategy and demands a status update on his available troops. He's told their infantry, cavalry, and archers are all ready to strike. Confident that Ike's forces won't advance any further, he orders his men to resume the attack. His plan is to slowly wear Ike's squad down until they are completely annihilated. But as the battle rages on, the soldiers Rudol assigned to guard Fiorentina and the other demons begin to worry that things might soon spiral out of control. Fearing a potential escape, they consider it safer to kill all the prisoners outright. It seems like a logical plan, but just before they can act, a spell is cast over them, causing them to fall asleep. As they collapse, Lilith appears, carrying Saphiro in her arms. Fiorentina is overjoyed to see Saphiro unharmed, and she rushes up to her with tears in her eyes, apologizing for not being able to save her from capture. But Saphiro gently reassures her, saying there's nothing to apologize for. She's just relieved that everyone is still alive. Lilith, however, cuts their reunion short, warning that they don't have time for this, so Fiorentina understands and says she'll leave the rest to Lilith. In that very moment, an arrow pierces Fiorentina's back and she collapses to the ground, and with her already weakened body, she becomes unable to move. The arrow was fired by Valtel's squadron, sent to ensure that no prisoners escape. Valtel stands ready, determined that no demons will make it out alive. He expects them to cower in fear, but instead, Lilith bursts into a fit of laughter, thrilled because everything is unfolding exactly as Ike predicted. Valtel confusedly demands to know what she means, but Lilith just points to his left, where Jiron stands right beside him. Valtel is shocked and demands to know how Jiron got there, but Jiron just smirks and replies that he came in through the front door, though he had to use a few magic tricks along the way. At that moment, Lilith sends a magical signal to Ike, and as soon as he receives it, Ike uses his magic to teleport the firing squad right into the castle beside Jiron. Valtel's eyes widen in horror as he recognizes the guns, knowing full well how deadly they are. But it's too late before he can warn his men. The soldiers are cut down by gunfire, falling by the dozens. Then when the firing squad finally runs out of ammunition, Valtel desperately tries to rally the remaining troops for a counterattack. But chaos breaks loose as the remaining orcs charge in, laying waste to the survivors to the degree that one of the guards takes a wild trip to the moon. Lilith then calls out to the orcs, reminding them not to get carried away because they still have other tasks to complete before they can make their escape. While the fighting rages on, Saphiro is kneeling beside Fiorentina, desperately trying to keep her alive. Fiorentina, with her weak voice, apologizes once more for failing her, then slips into unconsciousness. Saphiro's eyes fill with fury at the loss of her loyal subordinate, and as Valtel shouts commands to his men, Saphiro makes his wand explode, then steps on his throat, unleashing all her rage upon him. And let's just say, his head won't be staying attached to his body after that shit. Witnessing this, the soldiers panic and immediately turn tail, running for their lives. But even after taking down Valtel, Sapphiro is far from satisfied. She's about to chase down and slaughter every last one of the fleeing soldiers, but Lilith steps in front of her, urgently begging her to wait, explaining that there is something important she needs her to do. At first, Sapphiro is in no mood to listen, but when she hears it's a request from Ike, her rage subsides just enough for her to pause and hear Lilith out. Meanwhile, Jiren picks up Fiorentina's body, warning Sapphiro that she isn't dead yet and desperately needs medical attention. So he pleads with the others to carry out the mission without him so he can get Fiorentina to safety. A while later, Rudol receives alarming news. The demons have breached the city walls and freed the prisoners, seemingly appearing out of thin air. He immediately suspects Ike's magic is behind this. Just then, a deafening bang echoes through the walls, and Rudol sees Jiren's firing squad tearing through the human soldiers with brutal efficiency. Adding to the chaos, Sapphiro detonates all the heavy artillery, while the demons rampage through the ranks, leaving Rudol's carefully laid plans in tatters. With the human troops thoroughly devastated, Jiren announces it's time to leave. He fires a flared gun into the air, signaling Ike. The moment Ike sees it, he turns to Gunther, telling him it's his turn. Gunther has prepared several barrels of gunpowder, and the gargoyles swoop down, snatching the barrels and preparing to drop them onto the remaining human forces. Realizing what's about to happen, Jiren and Lilith urgently shout to their allies, ordering them to stop fighting and escape through the gaps in the wall before it's too late. Rudol spots the gargoyles flying overhead, each carrying suspicious barrels. He doesn't know what they're planning, but he's certain it can't be good, so without hesitation he orders all of his men to fall back immediately. Moments later, the gargoyles begin dropping the barrels, and as they hit the ground, they erupt into massive fiery explosions, tearing through what's left of Rudol's defenses. His troops are thrown into complete disarray. Sensing the perfect moment, Ike seizes the opportunity and orders his soldiers to charge in an all-out offensive. Meanwhile, Rudol scrambles to handle the chaos, trying desperately to regroup his shattered forces. But he barely has time to catch his breath before he learns that Ike has launched a full-scale attack. Realizing they have no chance of winning now, Rudol makes the difficult decision to order a full retreat. He knows he's lost today's battle, but vows to return someday to face Ike again, but this time to win. With the battle over, the demon army takes control of the city and begins making plans to rebuild. The other platoon commanders arrive on the scene, surprised to see humans inside the castle alongside demons. So Sapphiro quickly explains that these are citizens of Avalias who chose to stand with them, and adds that it's thanks to their bravery that she managed to survive in the first place, and from now on, they are to be treated as respected comrades. Fiorentina too makes a full recovery from her injuries, bringing relief to the entire group. However, the platoon leaders express their guilt and regret for not being there to help while their commander was imprisoned. But Sapphiro waves away their concerns, reminding them it wasn't their fault because she was the one who sent them out to fight other battles, which led to her own capture. Just then, Jiren bursts into the tent, holding a letter he's just received from one of Rudol's messengers. The messenger is waiting outside by the gate, and the platoon leaders immediately want to kill him on principle. But Ike steps in and urges them to read the letter first. Opening it, they find that Rudol has written a surprisingly respectful note, acknowledging Ike as a worthy rival. In essence, it's a message of respect. Rudol admits it was a good fight and expresses his hope to face Ike again on the battlefield someday. Ike finds it a bit strange that Rudol would send a letter of congratulations when they are still enemies. But despite Rudol's peculiar tendencies, Ike admits that he was still cunning enough to lure Sapphiro into a trap and capture her with ease. In fact, Rudol could have ended her life at any point before Ike's arrival. But for Sapphiro, this goes down as one of the worst failures of her career. Ike reassures her, saying that luck often plays a big role on the battlefield, but he also notes that Rudol's strategy had little to do with luck. From the way he trapped Sapphiro and how he immediately called for a retreat upon realizing he couldn't win, Rudol's decision-making was swift and precise. So Ike admits that if not for the new explosives Gunther had developed, he isn't sure they would have emerged victorious. Determined to respond, Ike writes back to Rudol, expressing how impressed he was with his leadership and tactical decisions. However, he adds that if they are to meet again, he hopes it will be as friends rather than enemies. He hands the letter to Jiren, instructing him to deliver it to Rudol's messenger. Sapphiro then officially congratulates Ike on yet another great success, but adds that he had no obligation to rescue her, especially knowing it was a trap. Ike smiles and tells her that it was the demon lord who ordered him to save her, and he had no reason to refuse, particularly since he's known Sapphiro for so long. Just then, a loud commotion erupts outside the tent. Curious, they rush out to see what's happening and are stunned to find the demon lord herself standing there. Even more shocking, they see Jiren casually talking to her as if she were a little girl, politely asking her to leave the area because it's an active war zone. Ike's eyes widen in panic and rushes over and quickly pushes Jiren aside, apologizing profusely for his rude behavior. He then urgently says to Jiren that this young girl is in fact the demon lord. Jiren is stunned, his jaw dropping as he recalls all the terrifying rumors that describe the demon lord as a ferocious and fearsome beast. Ike quickly apologizes to Darrow again for his subordinate's actions, but she waves it off, saying it's understandable. After all, there aren't many demons who know what she truly looks like. Just then, Jaron has a realization and remembers that Darrow is the mysterious girl who single-handedly saved the citizens of Avalias a few days ago. So now it all makes sense, given how incredibly powerful she is. The Demon Lord, now fully in command of the scene, addresses all the brigade members gathered around. She turns to Sapphiro, telling her she did well in this battle. Sapphiro shakes her head, insisting she doesn't deserve any praise. After all, it was her mistake that led to her and her troops being captured. But Darrow dismisses her self-criticism. Mistake or not, Sapphiro still managed to hold out for several days without supplies until Ike arrived, and for that, Darrow wants to give her due credit. She then turns to the entire group, stating that all members of the Undine Court have performed remarkably well in this war. However, among them, Ike has contributed the most, and she wants to give him special recognition. Ike thanks her, but he can't shake off a nagging feeling about where this is heading. Darrow smiles, almost sensing his unease, and declares that Ike is far too talented to remain in command of a single brigade. She then announces her decision. He will be the new commander of the 8th Corps, and this time he doesn't have the option to refuse. And so this marks the end of the first season of the tale of the Wizard Ike, the one destined to unite all races and cities across the world in the pursuit of lasting peace.